ex-MOA. Yung pala dito pala, no? Charles?
THINKaMuna Pilipinas. THINKaMuna. Thank you, Gretchen. Glad you could make it.
I'm glad to be here. Alam mo naman tayo mga millennial, maraming iniisip. You know, we are overburdened by trying to bridge the Gen Xers and the Gen Zers. Di ba? Parang inaano natin lagi.
Mahirap kapag gig economist ka talaga. Masyado kang busy. Tayong mga millennials.
We hope you're all having a good time and you learned so much from this morning's session. And before anything else, I'd just like to greet our Media Quest family. It is an amazing, amazing advocacy we're pushing for here. Literacy, media and information literacy coming at a crucial time in history. I've always said that fighting disinformation seems to be like playing a game of whack-a-mole. So it's never ending. But that's why we have to get to the fundamentals, which is going for literacy and education. At kailangan nating maging mas mapanuri.
Correct. Dahil sa atin magmumula, isang mas mapanuring bansa. Sabi nga nila. But talking about the Media Quest family, I'd just like to acknowledge the presence of some of our leaders from Media Quest. TV5 President, Mr. Guido Zaballero. Diba, boss? Hello.
Hello, sir.
We have Signal Chief Revenue Officer, Mr. Gerard Milan. And finally, we have True FM Head, Ms. Jan Inigo. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us this afternoon.
At syempre ang ating iconic voice of this campaign, Charles Lejano. Palapakan naman natin. Kanina pa siya dito ng umaga, bringing the energy to this house. And speaking of support, we would also like to welcome and thank our credible partners who made today possible. Our co-presenter, Meralco, our platinum partners, PLDT and Smart, our gold partner, Maya, and our silver partner, RCBC. We know that your presence here is you standing with us in this advocacy.
Exactly. We'd also like to thank our friends from Mwell and McDonald's. Gretchen, up next, we have somebody very, very special. We have our keynote speaker, who is indeed a true champion of education and innovation. He is known as the Ama ng Libreng Kolehiyo. I hope your cameras are ready because he's here. He is the principal sponsor of the landmark Free College Law, and he is a multi-awarded social entrepreneur, a recognized youth leader, and he was elected as the #2 senator in the 2025 national elections.
He definitely is back in position, ready to push for reform. And so to frame the urgency of embedding critical thinking in our classrooms, please welcome on stage the chair of the Senate Committee on Basic Education and Science and Technology. Can I just say he is a Blue Eagle, Senator Bam Aquino!
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, Charles, for the introduction. Nais ko pong batiin ang ilang mga kaibigan dito po sa holding room. Let me begin with Ms. Jane Basas, our CEO of Media Quest and Signal. Director Maki Katsuno Hayashikawa from UNESCO, Jakarta. Can we give her a round of applause, please? Director Herson Abisamis of DepEd. Magandang hapon po. Mr. Ramon Tuazon, our SecGen of AMIC. Mr. Carlo Concepcion of PAMIL. And of course, Sir Mon Isberto of Media Quest. Can we give him a round of applause, please? So ito pong topic ho natin about media literacy. I think it can't come at a better time. Our country has been subject to so much disinformation and misinformation, not just politically, but even in terms of health, in terms of commerce, in terms of so many different aspects of our society. Our citizens need to have our guard up when it comes to misinformation and disinformation. Sa totoo lang po, ang hope talaga natin dito, yung mga kabataan natin. Nasaan yung mga kabataan natin? Magparamdam naman kayo, kabataan. napansin ko po, pati Young at Heart kasama, napansin ko po, ang mga kabataan ng ating bansa, mas may kakayanan na mag-distinguish kung ano yung fake news at ano yung totoo. Sa totoo lang po, ang medyo mas hirap talaga to look at fake news, misinformation, disinformation, yung edad ko and older. Totoo po yan. And as our country is a young country, and as the years go on, our country actually gets younger and younger. At nakikita ko po, yung hope talaga natin nasa kabataan natin. But that support for our young people needs to begin in our schools. And nabanggit po kanina ni Charles na ngayon po tayo ang chairperson ng Committee on Basic Education. Let me share with you a story from 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, pumunta po ako sa Naga City. At doon po pumunta kami sa Juliano Soliman Elementary School. Now, I hope I remember the name correctly. And from the time that I landed till the time that I arrived at the school, 45 minutes po yan, umuulan. Wala pong bagyo, wala pong habagat, pangkaraniwang ulan lang. Pagdating namin sa Juliano Soliman Elementary School, at doon po kami dinala ni Mayor Lenny, nakita ko kung bakit doon kami dinala. Because within 45 minutes, the quadrangle of the school was underwater. And a number of classrooms were underwater. Hanggang tuhod po yung baha doon po sa eskwelahang yon within 45 minutes. And I was so surprised pag sabi sa akin ng mga teacher, Sen, tingnan mo, pagtingin ko, naglabasan ng mga bangka yung mga teacher at mga estudyante. Nagbabangka na sila within the school. I went to another school in Pampanga a couple of weeks ago at pinakita sa akin doon, Sen, you look at half of our classrooms here in our school, half of them were condemned. Condemned because they've been there for 30, 40, 50 years, condemned na yung classroom. And when we check the logs of DepEd, wala po sila under the list of classrooms to be replaced. So that school is in limbo. Nandun yung mga eskwela, nandun yung mga classroom, kalahati condemned, and yet walang plano para palitan sila. At least wala sila dun sa official log ng DepEd sa mga classrooms na dapat palitan. The other week, kausap po natin ang DPWH. At tinanong ko sila, sabi ko, Secretary Dizon, of course is the new Secretary of DPWH, ilang classroom na ba ang nagawa ng DPWH for 2025? And ito po, tinanong ko because in the Committee on Basic Education, alam namin na 165,000 ang backlog ng classroom sa ating bansa. 165,000 classrooms ang kailangan natin just to meet the right standard for our students. So 165,000 yung backlog natin. Ilan po ang nagawa ng DPWH in 2025? Pati po siya nagulat nung nakita niya yung cue card kasi yung mga ahensya, they give the secretary the cue card with the answers. Nung nakita po ni Secretary Dizon, napatanong siya, totoo ba to? And at that hearing, we found out that DPWH has made a total of 22 classrooms for 2025. 22 classrooms po. Can you imagine? 22 classrooms, October, not mistaken, that was October 15 or October 16. 10 months into the year, 22 classrooms pa lang yung completed ng DPWH. And if you look at the priority of DPWH for the past couple of years, it is on record that their priority has been flood control. So can you imagine, yung naging priority ng ating ahensya na gumagawa ng infrastruktura sa ating bansa, yan yung laman ng investigasyon ngayon sa Senado at Kongreso at laman ng ating feed at alam natin na napakasamang nangyayari sa ating bansa. Flood control yung priority, napakaraming bilyon-bilyon yung ginawa o ninakaw, ano yung hindi ginawa? Classroom. Ano yung nagawa nila for 2025? 22 classrooms. Some cities, some provinces, some municipalities have made more classrooms than DPWH for this year. Can you imagine that? Bakit ko po ito binabanggit? Because in our country, a lot of our fundamentals are lacking. Pagdating po sa edukasyon, nandyan yung problema ng classroom. Nandyan yung problema ng textbook. Only 30% of textbooks get to our school children at DepEd. Only 30%. More than half of these textbooks arrive, tapos na po yung kalahating taon. January na, doon palang dumadating yung mga textbook ng karamihan ng mga estudyante sa Pilipinas sa ating mga public school. You have problems with classrooms, problems with textbooks. We need support for our teachers. We have no internet access. Nasaan si Ma'am Jane? No internet access or slow internet access in many of these schools. Ito po yung mga basics na kulang po sa ating bansa. When you look at our problems with flood control, we go back to basics. Hindi po ba korupsyon? Hindi ba yan ang isa sa pinaka-basic na dapat hinahanapan natin ng solusyon? Hindi dapat ninanakawan ng gobyerno yung taong bayan? Napaka-basic. Problems ng baha, napaka-basic. And yet, here we are talking about media literacy. Parang hindi to basic. Medyo mas advanced ng konti. And I think that's really the challenge that we see in our country. We have one leg here trying to resolve the basics. Basic infrastructure for flooding, for mobility, for transportation, for safety, for security, basic classrooms. Sa totoo lang po, baka may mga engineers dito, yung classroom, yan yung pinakasimpleng infrastructure na ginagawa pag building. Kasi literally, box lang po siya. Pinakasimple, and yet di natin magawa-gawa sa ating bansa. And yet, on the other hand, we need to have our eye out for the future. Media literacy, artificial intelligence, new ways of working, new ways of studying, new ways of learning. Social media is even old. Diba? I'm sure at some point, many years ago, we were talking about social media as a new form of communication. Ngayon po, it's no longer new. It is the way we communicate with each other. That happened in such a short span of time. Parang feeling ko, within 10 to 15 years, social media took over. It's no longer on the horizon. It's already one of the basics already. That's why we look at internet access as one of the basics we need in our classrooms. And that, I think, is really the challenge for our young people, for people in government, even the private sector. We have to find a way to address the fundamentals in our country. Things that we deserve and we require to be able to move forward as a country. We require to move forward because kung wala po yung basics, mahirap pong magprogreso sa ating bansa. And we deserve because all of us here are taxpayers. Lahat tayo dito nagbabayad ng buwis. And we deserve these services in our country. So habang pinagalaban po natin yan, and many times these days, ang mga usapin back to basics, as we speak mga kasama, Cebu is underwater right now because of the typhoon. Again, it goes back to flooding, flood control, all of these basics na wala. Resiliency, which I know PLDT Foundation is working on for a long time, disaster relief and management. No? While we look at the basics and try to resolve these basics, we have one eye towards what's on the horizon. You know, we've been talking to Ched about courses in school. And one of the discussion points with them is that we're discussing rationalization of courses, but a lot of the new skills and courses that we need aren't on a 4-year horizon. Kumbaga po, mag-a-apply ka ng college, only to find out 4 years later, iba na yung trabaho na hinahanap ng merkado. O di kaya, nag-apply ka ngayon, kasi alam mo na malaki yung chance mong makakuha ng trabaho 4 years later, but 4 years later, the job market has changed. So even our colleges and universities are at a stress point because we're producing graduates that are not working in the courses that they prepared for. So you look at all of these challenges, all of these changes, and sometimes madali pong mawalan ng lakas ng loob. Sometimes po madaling magalit na lang, mainis na lang, o hindi kaya mag-give up na lang sermon, no? At umalis na lang. No? Baka po sometimes madali na yan yung maging response natin. But I ask everyone, I enjoin everyone, I ask especially our young people here not to lose hope in our country. Not to lose hope in the so many challenges that we face. Kasi ako po, you know, I've been here for some time. My first time in government service was 24 years ago. I've been in the Senate once and now I'm back. Thanks to a lot of the young people here who voted for me. Maraming salamat. Marami na ho tayong nakita. I've been in media at one point in my life, a social entrepreneur at another point in my life. marami na po tayong nakita. Ano po yung nakikita ko ngayon? Unang-una, our demographic is a demographic that leads to change. Ang average age po ng Pilipino, 24 years old. At kada taon na lumilipas, mas maraming kabataan ang pumapasok, hindi lang sa workforce, pero pati rin sa ating voting population. May pag-asa po dyan. It's a lot of the young people who are now currently angry and pissed off at what's happening with regard to our budget. Flood control, iba't ibang mga scam, iba't ibang mga nakawan na nangyayari. Marami po sa mga kabataan natin, sa kanila nanggagaling yung galit. Sila po yung nagsabi na hindi dapat inormalize ang korupsyon. Sila po yung nagsabi na hindi tayo papayag na ganito na lang ang bansa natin. There's hope there. Pangalawa, I think with what we've seen with the flood control investigations, umabot na rin sa point yung Pilipino, kahit anumang edad, na naghahanap na tayo ng totoong pagbabago. Yung panawagan po at yung mga chant ng mga iba't ibang grupo, especially nung September 21 rally, ikulong yung sangkot, ibalik yung pera, baguhin ang sistema. Yung ikulong tsaka ibalik, narinig na natin yan eh. Hindi natin na-implement, pero narinig na natin yan. Yung pangatlo, baguhin ang sistema. And a lot of our citizens now, especially the young, hindi na papayag na business as usual. Hindi na papayag na ganun-ganun na lang. Papayag tayo sa ganyan na naman o ganun-ganun na lang. Huwag na ho nating hintayin yung next elections. Ngayon pa lang, magdemanda na tayo na baguhin yung sistema. Earlier, I arrived a little late because we finalized our second hearing for our blockchain bill. Ano po yung blockchain bill? That's basically one of our bills that we filed. We're going to sponsor it next week. That will put the budget on the blockchain. Or, to be technical about it, other similar technologies that have the same standards as blockchain. Ano po yan? It basically mandates that all of the documents of government, pagdating sa expenditure, kumbaga po, lahat ng pinupuntahan ng tax natin, lahat ng pinupuntahan ng pinaghihirapan nating pondo, kailangan po ma-disclose sa publiko. Currently, if you look at what happened dito po sa flood control issue, during the SONA, nagsabi si Presidente ng mahiya naman kayo, in a few days, naglabas siya ng top contractors for flood control. Marami po sa atin nagulat doon. Sino ba ang mga taong ito? Ano mga kumpanyang yan? Kung hindi po yan nilabas sa media, marahil po hindi na natin malalaman kung sino-sino sila. But this bill will mandate that not only the budget, not only the line items, not only the amendments ang ilalabas po sa publiko, pati mga kontrata ng mga kontraktor ilalabas po sa publiko. Pati yung bill of materials, kung magkano yung semento, yung bakal, yung kahoy na ginamit sa anumang project sa ating bansa, ilalabas po sa publiko. Kahit po kung sino ang nag-bid, para malaman natin na totoong bidding yung nangyayari, ilalabas po sa publiko. Pati yung progress report, ilalabas po sa publiko. That's what this bill, we're now calling it the Cadena Act. Citizens Access for Disclosure and Expenditures for National Accountability. We're now calling it the Cadena Act. This bill will mandate all of these documents will be put out to the public. And if agencies don't share this data with the public, may liability po sila, administrative and even criminal offenses. At kung yung tinago na kontrata, konektado sa isang anomalya, the agency head or the responsible person in the agency who withheld the data can be charged as a co-conspirator in the fraudulent case. So this is a powerful mechanism. And after, of course, we disclose, hopefully by 2026, we can have this full disclosure out there. We will add a layer of technology and add necessary technologies, probably blockchain, to secure the technology para hindi pwedeng baguhin ng basta-basta. Di ba nakita natin nung isang araw, sinusunog yung DPWH? Ito kahit magsunog pa sila, naka-blockchain na po yung data. Di na po pwedeng mawala at di na po pwedeng mabaliwala. If you look at that solution, yan po yung isang example ko. It's still addressing a fundamental problem in our country. Corruption. Parang panahon pa po ata ni Quezon, meron na yan, di ba? Tagal-tagal na po niyan. But we have an eye towards the future because we're using the newest and best technology to help resolve our fundamental problems. I think that's the way to go for us right now. Marami sa mga fundamental problems po natin, kailangan nating i-address, hindi pwedeng pakawalan. We still have to make the classrooms, even if we're already pushing a lot of our young to learn through artificial intelligence or to learn through modern technologies, we still have to have our classrooms. We still need to support our teachers, even if remote learning is already quite common. Kailangan pa rin natin ng physical teachers in the schools. And that's the challenge that we have. While we're addressing our fundamental problems, we have one eye to the future, looking at these new solutions, looking at these new problems that might come up, and trying our best to balance everything. Ito pong media literacy, napakahalaga. Because how can a country progress if we can't even agree on the facts? If we can't even agree on what is real and what is the truth, how can we agree about what's best for the country? So I commend MediaQuest and the different groups here for pursuing this advocacy for DepEd and the challenge of DepEd to implement the media literacy law. Mahalaga po yan at babantayan po natin yan sa Senado. And rest assured na tayong lahat po dito, I hope we still have that hope to fight for our country, to push for innovative solutions, and to address our fundamental problems. Thank you again, everyone. Maraming salamat. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Senator Bam Aquino.
Thank you, Senator Bam. Awesome, awesome energy from Senator Bam. Let's hear it once again for our keynote speaker, guys.
It's good to hear a fresh voice in the Senate singing a different tune.
Exactly.
Thank
Thank you so much, Senator Bam, for your inspiring message on hope and change for the Philippines and how MIL can be key for all of us here in the Philippines. Maraming salamat for sharing your time with us this afternoon.
Napasigaw ko kanina nung tinanong niya, no? Sino ba dito yung kabataan? O, di ba? Sino ba dito yung kabataan? Wala. Medyo ano na tayo.
Kailangan na magkape ng kabataan.
Baby boomer crowd na ba to? Joke lang.
Right, so we're gonna move on to the next part of our program. So guys, before our lunch break, we were focusing on education, having established that our schools must light that spark of critical thinking to safeguard present and future generations. So now, the challenge of misinformation starts when somebody cannot discern what is true and what is false. Hindi natin alam.
Now we must ask, if our schools light the spark, then what happens when truth is tested in society at large? When the news is accessed not just through traditional means like newspapers, but now through fast-moving social feeds.
So this brings us now to our second essential pillar for today's MIL conference, media, and how we can safeguard the truth through media and information literacy. Gretchen, in today's digital landscape where coordinated disinformation, malign actors continue to influence public discourse, the public conversation, the role of media as the protector of trust is more vital than ever.
And at a time when the landscape has changed so dramatically, how do newsrooms continue to stay relevant? How can creators find the balance between telling the truth and getting engagement? Those are some of the questions we'll ask. The next panel we have will explore the front-line role of journalists, fact-checkers, and content creators, emphasizing courage, accountability, and the collaboration needed to defend truth. I know all of you have your own set of questions, so please don't forget to use Slido to place your questions for our panelists. Gone are the days that we use Manila paper, mga cue cards. Ngayon, app na rin ang gamit natin. So please download Slido and input
Your questions for the panelists. Ayan.
and scan this QR code that
THINKaMuna
you see
Pilipinas.
on
Scan
your
the QR
screens.
code and do send your questions for our panel. And for our panelists who are representing the traditional media sector and commitment to accountability, we welcome a trailblazer in media innovation. And now we're introducing our first panelist who leads the sales and marketing efforts for major platforms like the Philippine Star and Business World. He has also driven the digital transformation of the group, championing multimedia storytelling and AI-driven content to ensure relevance in today's landscape. And his impact was recognized when he was named the Asian Netizen Marketeer of the Year. Please all welcome the Executive Vice President of Philstar Media Group, Mr. Lucien Di Tioco. Lucien, welcome, sir. Welcome to the panel.
Next up, joining this panel from our neighbors in the region is the head of operations of Malaysia Kini. She has over 2 decades of experience in the journalism field, having worked in satellite television.
Up, we have a digital-first creator who has used social platforms to champion history and critical thinking. As a self-confessed history geek and genealogist, her mighty magulang persona delivers bite-sized history and has ushered her into serving on the TikTok Safety Advisory Council for the Asia-Pacific, making her a unique voice at the intersection of creation and platform accountability. Please all welcome the mighty magulang, Miss Mona Magnoveluz.
Context matters. And finally, completing our panel this afternoon, we have a veteran journalist with a career spanning nearly 4 decades, whose commitment to accountability is unwavering. He has 38 years of experience across print, online, and broadcast media, and has taken on every role from journalist to videographer to newsroom manager. He is currently the political editor of One News and the presenter of TV5's late evening newscast, Frontline Tonight. Let's welcome to the stage Master Mojo, Chief of Reporters, the ultimate OG, Lodi Alamat ng Bayan, Mr. Ed Lingao.
Storycon. Beyond the newsroom, she is a consultant for the IFC in the Philippines, focusing on crucial areas such as climate change, climate finance, and energy transition. She holds a master's in business and economic reporting from New York University. Please welcome Miss Regina Lay.
Now I don't know who's the sharper one between Regina and Ed, but you gotta stay out of this girl's way.
Yeah. We're about to find out.
And for now, she is our kakampi at kapatid for this panel. Take it away, Regina.
Between me and Ed. Hi everyone, my name is Regina. I'm, as she said, a news anchor and business editor at One News, and I'm privileged to lead this conversation today, but I thought we'd kick off with a quiz first. On our show, they call me the principal, so panindigan ko na. So, by a show of hands, who in this room has engaged with content, has ever engaged with content? By that I mean shared or posted on a post that's later turned out to be false or inaccurate. Show of hands. Hey, there's no judgment here. You're not gonna get graded for this. I just wanna take a quick pulse check of the room. Anyone? Okay, just a few. Okay, who here in the last week has stopped to fact check something before they shared it? Show of hands. Also not that, oh wow, Lucien, thank you for leading the way. That's it? Okay, third question. Who here trusts information that's shared by someone you know more than traditional news media? Meaning you trust the information that's shared by your networks, by people you follow, more than traditional news media. You mean to say that trust in media is still pretty high? Wow. Very That's not how we feel, but okay. Don't trust anyone. Okay, thank you for that. Before we kick off, I thought I'd let Pam, you're the outlier here. I wanted to give you the floor first to give you a chance to talk about who or what Malaysia Kini is all about and what you guys are trying to do.
Sure. Thank you for having me. So to begin with, my newsroom, Malaysia Kini, is 26 years old this year, and we are a digital native. That means when we started in 1999, we started purely as an online platform. We didn't have print, we didn't have TV station. We started as an independent newsroom, very rock and roll, very guerrilla style, and 26 years down the road, we are one of the most visited news sites in Malaysia. Now, we are known for our serious reporting, very hard-hitting political news. We don't really do sports. We don't cover entertainment. We only do news that's related to politics and policies. And in terms of the kind of stories that we do, most of it is breaking news, but we also do long form. And we specialize in fact-checking, and we have a small arm that do a lot of interactive news, fact-checking, as well as media literacy.
You guys have also done a lot of big agenda-setting investigative journalism work, right?
So our team for investigative journalism is actually quite small, but we have been involved in some rather important investigation. For instance, things like the Pandora paper, whatnot. We were the only newsroom in Malaysia that was involved in the investigation. Yes.
And how would you characterize the media literacy levels in Malaysia at the moment? I mean, obviously, all of us here in the Philippines know it's a bit of a problem, but what's it like in Malaysia?
Right. I think to begin with, let's just give everybody some understanding about Malaysia, like the freedom of speech situation over there. In terms of our freedom of speech ranking index, this year it's 98. I think it's slightly better than the Philippines. I think Philippines these days is 116. 3 years ago, we were at 118. So things have progressively become better within just 3 years. And in terms of media literacy, I would say there wasn't any formal education from either the government. Of course, the civil society has been really pushing for that. And we are also quite concerned about some of the legal framework that is in place or not in place. So a lot of activists and the civil societies are trying to push for that. For the general public, I would say not many people are aware of misinformation and disinformation. They don't really pay attention to that. So that's why we feel that it's very important to have discussion like this. Yeah.
So you would say media literacy, media and information literacy in general is pretty high, pretty sophisticated?
I would say people are discerning to certain things. For instance, if it's AI generated, people can naturally tell because some of it is really quite obvious. And people probably, especially in the last few months, you know, there are so many deep fake videos that's floating around in social media. That level of literacy, yes, I would say yes. But anything that's more orchestrated, for instance, like FIMI, or, you know, campaigns, operative campaigns, information manipulation, wouldn't say not everyone would have that level of knowledge, so there are differences. But in terms of, because media literacy can come in many forms. For instance, if it's related to scam, yes, because there has been a lot of effort pushing for that sort of education. Yep.
That's very encouraging to hear. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I thought we'd start from the bigger perspective, and that is the question of what is our responsibility in this new ecosystem? once upon a time, the media was the gatekeepers, right? We were the gatekeepers of information. So anything you saw out there, whether that's TV, that's print, that's digital, that would have been verified, that would have been fact-checked. But along came big tech, which, by their words, democratized information. So they threw the floodgates wide open. And so now, who does it fall on to make sure the information is accurate, is correct, and does not harm people? What do you see as our responsibility here? Ed and then Mona.
I think it's everybody's responsibility. Yes, broadcasting and publications have been democratized. Everybody now is a publisher, everybody now is a broadcaster. But at the same time, the responsibility is also democratized. Of course, as media, as mainstream media, our primary responsibility still is to make sure that we hold people in power to account. That stays with us. But that shouldn't prevent other people from also jumping in. I think that much is clear. So when we see fake news, personally, I think that people should also jump in and call it out. Don't just leave it to people in mainstream to call it out. Otherwise, sometimes it really gets lonely. It gets really, really lonely, especially in the previous administration, when there's a very populist leader. Everybody seems to jump in and support that leader, regardless of how outrageous the statements are. It's a big help when people decide to take the reins and say, I'm going to stand with what is correct and what is right.
It's hard to be a voice of reason.
Yeah, because it takes special energy and a sense of responsibility for you to take that step forward. Okay, very quickly. 2016, 2017, it was really, really very difficult to be critical because everybody was either quiet or supportive of how things were. So somebody had to keep on pushing back. Finally, by the last few years, I realized people have begun pushing back. And I'd like to think that it's because some people stood their ground and said, no, everybody has to get involved.
Yeah.
And that's why we have people like these.
Mona?
Well, I think that the platforms have to also be accountable. I commend platforms like TikTok, for example, because they have a safety advisory network and they issue reports on how many posts they've taken down, how many action they've taken, and they are more, I think, they communicate more when it comes to what their security guidelines are. But I also feel that beyond all of the media literacy campaigns that we have to kind of touch our sense of community. And this is where I guess my history background kind of comes in. I want to kind of call on our spirit of kapwa, because how algorithm works is when we watch something, it becomes relevant to all of the people in our sphere. Therefore, and I said this earlier, you have to be media literate because it is one way to kind of contribute to that spirit of bayanihan. Being media literate is bayanihan circa 2025. Para matulungan mo yung kapwa mo, kailangan media literate ka. And you are responsible for the information you consume. You are responsible for the information that you put out there. My take.
That's a great point. Lucien, how would you describe the levels of media literacy in the country right now?
Well, in terms of media literacy, there's really a lack of fact-checking that has been going on. And I agree with Senator Bam Aquino about his statement that there's really a lack of literacy that is happening, ironically, with the older generation than with the younger generation. But what we've been doing for the past 5 years is trying to invigorate media literacy to our different audiences. So, for example, for the younger audiences, we've been reaching out to schools where we introduced the Rediscover program, where we've already touched base with 25,000 students and give the teachers a media literacy module to help teach the young students to be more discerning and develop critical thinking at a young age by verifying the facts. So yung slogan na think muna, before thinking first, magbasa muna. That's basically the very essence of our advocacy. And then recently we launched a print campaign for the Philippine Star, reminding people that, if there's anything that you'd like to fact check, there's the newspaper in the printed form. Because what is in the printed form is permanent. And what is permanent, it has to be verified, it has to be credible, and we take accountability in what we print.
You know, critical thinking is something that's come up a number of times today, and it's such a valuable yet underrated skill. How exactly do we foster critical thinking skills? What practical day-to-day protocols can we adopt to cultivate that?
That's the very basis of how journalism is. The very basis of journalism is for you to develop the facts. It's a set of questions that starts with what, when did it happen, who were involved, what, and how it happened.
When, how,
And
the
then
five
the
Ws.
why
Yeah.
we provided to the reader. Why did it happen? But basically, it's developing those questions for you to develop those facts.
With these outreach, yeah, go ahead.
Very quickly. I went to UP. I took up journalism. But I like to say this. I did not learn journalism in UP. I did not. And my teachers always get shocked. Oh, what is he saying? No. What UP taught me was ask questions. Question what you're told. Challenge. Don't take it for granted. For example, 22 classrooms this year. And you have some groups making a lot of noise over that. And truthfully, that's problematic. But in 2018, the DPWH announced that it built 23,161 classrooms, DPWH. A few months later, DepEd releases a statement saying, no, only 11 classrooms were built as of December 31, 2018. The target was 40,000 and then reduced to 23,000 and then the actual was 11,000. But the official figure of DPWH was 23,000. So you just take it for granted because they said so. There you question, you ask, and you pursue.
That's a great point. School is meant to give you the ethical foundation for it.
And
Go ahead.
just to add to this conversation, no, for me naman as a content creator, when I use hashtag fact check, people actually don't like it. People don't want to feel that they are ignorant. It's almost as if you need to take them there. Because right now, with the current environment that we are in fact, the word fact check has a negative connotation. So we have to be careful about, sounding too smart. Like, you don't want to make people who are consuming your content, you don't want them to feel less intelligent. You don't want to appear as if you are smart, shaming them. So the approach that I have always taken is to find where we agree on. And what we usually agree on as Filipinos is we agree on certain values that we value. We used to agree on history, but now not so much. But there has to be learnings from history that we have.
But Mona,
as
that's
a community.
exactly the problem, isn't it? As Senator Bam said earlier, how we on the same set of facts, right? Was President Duterte kidnapped or was he arrested? Okay,
Yeah.
you don't have to use my example, but you get what I mean, right?
And this is the difference between journalists and the rest of humanity. Now, for me naman, I think of it as, let's agree, let's find that place of where we agree on. It may not be facts, it may be feelings, it may be values, it may be, let's just look for that place and build from there. I'm a salesperson. At least I was. Baka sales tactic din yun. I don't know. But we just have to find a common place and then build from there. Otherwise, it will always be my fact versus your fact.
Right, exactly. And that's exactly what's playing out in social media right now. I'm right, you're wrong. And if I'm right, then you gotta be wrong. Lucien, you wanted to say something?
I agree very much that, you know, truth is something that is subjective. And your truth is different from my truth. And what's dangerous is I express my truth on social media. And that's the very delicate balance that we handle, and how we can find a common ground where we can agree. And that's the challenge where all of us, not only us in media, on how we can look at truth objectively.
Sam, does it get to be this polarizing in Malaysia? Because in the Philippines, as you know, the digital accessibility rates are pretty high, and so people duke it out online. What's it like with you?
No, definitely it is not as polarized as it is in Malaysia. Things are slightly better. So my own observation about Malaysia is such that, of course, social media is now the main source of news for our audience over there. We do have some legal framework that's already been put in place. For instance, just last year itself, we have got a few things that's been put in place. For instance, we have a media council that's been set up. So the role of the media council is supposed to be at an organ that's formed by the media practitioner and owner themselves to regulate the media in terms of any misconduct whatsoever. So that's number one. We will also have government putting laws that govern that social media must get licensed from this year onwards. But it's also being criticized in the sense that some CSO and the civil service is saying, civil society is saying that then it's by the minister's definition whether or not we should approve it. Like in terms of the wrongdoing, how do you define that? So that's another thing. We also have, for instance, things like cyberbullying, doxing that's formally criminalized in our country. So we do have that thing in place. But then again, for the activists and for the social society, the civil society, it's always, probably we shouldn't have something that's so hard-hitting and that's so rigid. It should be more about media literacy, the education. It should be nuances. It should be putting pressure onto social media platform for coming up with better transparency in terms of algorithm, in terms of having a better moderation features around. But I'm sure for a place like the Philippines, right, just having all those is not enough. And I totally enjoy listening to your discussion and debates about different versions of truth. Yeah.
Would you say that law has worked?
I would say it's a good beginning in the sense that it is putting pressure to especially social media platform. But at the same time, is it perfect? No, far from perfect, because the power is still very, very much concentrated in the politician's hand. But it's good that we have legal framework, for instance, like criminalizing cyberbullying, harassment, whatnot. Yes.
Because several months ago, before the whole scandal around flood control broke out, our congressional leaders were talking about such a law, which is to criminalize harassment and fake news. And Ed and I are on the same show, so we pushed back a little bit. And the question at the heart of this law is, who gets to be the arbiter of truth?
Exactly.
And at the moment, their answer is the government gets to be the arbiter of truth, which is a very dangerous place to be in, right? Tham and then Ed, you were going to say something, Tham?
Yeah, I was just saying that that's always a problem when the politician or the minister, in our case, is the one that's defining what is malicious, what is obscene. That is the problem. So that is the dispute as to how do you define it. Yeah.
Ed, I know you have very big feelings about this.
I'm sure we all remember what happened in sa congressional hearings when they had the Duterte bloggers being
When
grilled.
they got called into
Yeah,
Senate.
and to be honest about it, parang, ay, ang sarap ng pakiramdam. I'm being honest, ha? Ang sarap ng pakiramdam.
Don't quote him.
But at the same time, parang, wait, this is alarming. You don't like what she said, therefore you're grilling him or her, and you're threatening her with contempt. You don't have to agree with her. People have the right to be wrong. And I will stand by that. People have the right to be wrong, so long as you do not violate the law. I don't like what you said, but my job is to protect your right to say it.
Correct.
And that's what we saw in the congressional hearings. We don't like a lot of the things that these people wrote or vlogged and all that. But God, they have the right to be wrong. Should I have said that?
No, but it's a good point, right? Again, the question is who gets to decide if what you said is right or wrong.
Sorry, quickly.
Yeah.
Remember then, during the Duterte administration, the National Telecommunications Commission imposed restrictions on several online news websites because it did not agree with their content. And these were news websites. They don't have to agree with what was written, but that's an overreach already. Then you have government, Big Brother looking down and saying, mali ka, hindi ka pwede. And you have the revised penal code, which is from 1930, which also penalizes false news. So you have a whole lot of these laws, plus the libel laws, which also impose onerous restrictions on what you're allowed to say. You are presumed to be malicious, and you have to prove otherwise.
And libel is already a criminal law.
It's a criminal
right.
law.
And it exists to this day. Today, I mean, there's enough. What we're trying to point out here is that there are enough safeguards
Ang dami.
in terms of protecting, freedom of speech on the one hand, because you got to balance that with defamatory content, right? Muna?
I actually want to ask a question of you. So, considering that we do have a lot of content creators, I don't want to call them influencers, but they do have influence, content creators who create deliberately false information. What can be done about them when we know that there is malicious intent, malicious, politically driven intent behind the false news?
I'm not a lawyer. But one of the major elements of the libel laws is the element of malice. So it can fall under libel laws, existing libel laws, which by themselves are already archaic and too strict. But anyway, it's already there. I don't know if we should add some more to that because it's something that we should, I think, lessen regulations with. So to me, the bigger challenge would be getting people off their butts to push back, getting people to stop, putting more importance in their selfies and whether they can do 0.5s and all that, and making them want to, tanga na mali yun na. Yung ganon, ako kasi, kailangan natin libog. Don't take that wrong. Passion is the word, sorry. Maybe I used the wrong word. But I always say that. We need passion more than anger. People who want to go to the front and say, that's wrong. Let's point it out. This is what's right. Look it up. Anger will go. Anger comes and goes. Passion, libog, stays.
Can we sustain the outrage is another question. Lucien?
I think it has to be a combination of things in order to put things in place. First of all, there should be us advocating for media literacy, trying to hold back on what we say on social media. We have to think first before we put on something because it can influence in a negative way. Second is the responsibility of the platforms, us included, whether it's traditional or the Facebooks and the Googles of the world. There's so much chaos that is happening right now in social media. And no one is taking the cudgels to take responsibility for it. And for me, to be able to start it, it should start with us first and foremost. Before you say something, before you try to take on a side, check the facts first. Check the facts, analyze what it is before you put out and share your idea.
And I'd like to kind of piggyback off that thought. As a content creator, I've been creating content since 2021. So many times people have challenged me, uy, mag-debate tayo, and all of that. And for me, aside from the fact na tinatamad ako at marami po akong labada, I always say, well, do I want to do that? Do I want to push back against these content creators who are in it for the fight? They are in it for the debate. They are in it for the clout. And I'm like, no, I'll just create my content. I'll do my thing and talk about, what is correct. I want to share that part of our history where it's supported by primary documents and all of that. And over time, they kind of, go to congressional hearings and end up falling off the radar because of what they do. And sometimes maybe we shouldn't have waited that long. And as a community, I think if there is more pushback, more, like you said, passion about pushing back, maybe that is one way of getting them, or just blocking them, making sure we don't send them, we don't get rage baited and watch their content, and just support content creators that show and value critical, ethical, and responsible thinking.
Can I just add a bit? I want to say media literacy, of course, is very much about discerning fake news, verification, tech addiction, whatnot. But it's also about so much more nuances. For instance, in the case of content creator or whatever user-generated content that we see on social media, it's about the social status of this person. What is the intent of this person? What kind of reach does he or she has? And what sort of motives is there behind it? It's actually a whole lot of things. And that is one of the things that's advocated, at least in my country, that if you want to go push for the platform, to go for content moderation or comments moderation, it should be having all these delicate consideration of considering the condition, instead of, very just roughly look at it and say, yes, no, take it down. Yeah.
That's a great point. Thank you, Tham. Ed?
Short kwento lang. Just as an example, several years ago, I got into a long argument online with the PSSAP underground media.
He gets into long arguments online a lot, by the way.
It's a Facebook page. PSSAP is supposed to stand for Political Science Students Association of the Philippines Underground Media. So may ganun. Underground media ng political science students. And they're posting all these stories about Marcos, Taliano Gold, Illuminati, all these mysterious things. And we would get into arguments because I was writing about the Marcos ill-gotten wealth. And they would bash me and say, that's not true. The Taliano Gold is what's true. In fact, it's on YouTube. Do your research on YouTube. Anyway. So PSSAP underground media, okay, we get into fights, and then one time, the real PSSAP writes me and says, we don't know who that group is. We're the real PSSAP. Can you help us to fight this fake group? And I said, sure. So I posted it and all that. But eventually, when I checked their page, PSSAP underground media already had 250,000 followers. Versus the real PSSAP, the real one, political science students, 2,000 followers. Because how exciting is the life of the political science students? I mean, oh, come on, let's go talk about Aristotle and ano. Diba? So dun pa lang talo na sila. Dun pa lang talo na sila. So if you don't push back kaagad, these guys built up their empire with 250,000 followers, and they're even fakes, and the real ones have 2,000.
Everything that you guys are saying is correct and true, but we live in the real world, and the truth is we're not just chasing clout, chasing eyeballs, but ultimately, all of these translate to money, right? Why do they chase so much of these engagement? Because all of that translates to views, which they can then sell to advertisers, right? So algorithmic bias is a real thing. In your outreach projects, Lucian, how do you talk about this concept of getting around the algorithmic bias, making sure that people understand, okay, what you are what you consume, essentially?
Yeah. The way we're doing it is actually looking at several communities, looking at different communities and how to reach out the message to them. Students, for one, the teachers, our readers who used to read the newspaper and now is online because it's more convenient. Technology has brought so much convenience that trying to take time to bother in fact-checking has already been dropped as a habit. And it's something that we constantly fight on in terms, and how we're doing it is focusing more on different communities where there's really a lot of traction that we can develop in those little steps.
What's the reception like generally when you talk about these things?
The reception has been very, very, very encouraging. Since we began the readership program, we've been getting a lot of support from the different sponsors and sponsoring for students to provide them with copies. We're not providing them with the physical paper because everyone is in the provinces, so e-paper yung pinapadala namin. And in that way, that also makes the student more familiar with and enchanted with the old medium and how news is delivered. Siyempre, ano sa kanila yun,
They're
diba?
shocked when they first hold their first newspaper.
The Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas are more fascinated with anything analog right now. So, and there's really an appreciation of, how things were and how things worked, unlike in the digital world. So they're looking also for offline spaces, and which we're capitalizing on.
Do they also like the smell of newspapers like we did? I'm joking.
Except the smudge of the,
Smudge.
the ink.
Mona, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I advocate for hide, report, and block. And this is also to kind of cleanse my timeline, because the systems, the algorithms learn that if you consume this content, even accidentally, you're kind of roped in. So I encourage people to do that. Although for the young people, they say that's equivalent to pikontalo. Like if you block somebody, it's a flex. Or if you get blocked by somebody, oh, it's a flex because I kind of push the right buttons. But for me, being the Gen Xer that I am, no. Like you can't go into my house if you're going to act like this or you're going to talk like about something false. So yeah, I advocate for hygiene, digital hygiene. I know news agencies don't do this, but I feel that when a comment is out of hand, it multiplies. So I want to snip that in the bud. Prune hygiene, that's what I advocate for. Your comment section and your followers.
How should we approach the fact that many young people now take their news or consume their news from content creators and influencers who, let's be honest, do not abide by the same journalistic standards as traditional journalists, right? There's no guardrails for them. There's no industry body looking over their shoulders. How do we approach that fact? Mona and then Tham.
I would like to say that I think this is an evolution of news. So I think what we should do is get more journalists to actually create content. Not stop it, not try to stifle it, but we need to create a new generation of journalists who can play in that field.
Yeah, that's exactly what my newsroom is doing right now. We are grooming our own in-house journalists to produce content that is very creator-like. At the same time, if you notice, at least in the case of my country, a lot of news content creator, they got their news from traditional media or newsroom like us, sometimes not crediting us. Sometimes they even just took our footage, took away, cover our logo, and then just insert in their footage. We really, really anger us. So what we did was we would actually report to the platform and took that away, make sure that it's being taken down. Because media literacy is also about respecting IP rights.
The Star has always been advocating for the truth, but in order to do that, we've adapted to the different formats of all the platforms that we are in. We always believe that we always have to adjust to what the audience we have to address to. Right now, we're thriving in the social media world in terms of the followers. I think we're the fastest and most recognized news source out in social media. But what's more important is actually trying to develop a team where right now we're already studying on how the newsroom will look like in the next 5 years, because so much development that we're undergoing right now. There's another digital transformation happening with all the AI applications that are in place. And that's something that is could be a threat or an opportunity that us like media players are doing. And even for content creators, I think it's important also for influencers and content creators to take a more responsible and accountable manner of sharing content, because it's moving into communities. Everything will be moving into communities, especially when AI is already in place.
Can you talk briefly, Lucian, about how your newsroom is dealing with AI, and in what ways have you applied it? I'm guessing you're using LLM, large language models, at this point.
Yes. Right now, we're still in the experimental stage, but what I can share is we're looking at possibilities where it can generate content spoken, of course, in different languages, but also try to cover as much coverage as possible through AI.
The tricky thing with what you said earlier, Mona, is that we can do more creator type content, yes, but at the end of the day, we still have to abide by journalistic standards, and we can't be wholly partisan, for instance, or wholly biased one way or another, right? Which is actually what sells, let's be honest, right? A lot of you talked about rage baiting. A lot of these content creators know how to maximize rage baiting, right? So where's the sweet spot, do you think?
I think there is a market for people who want to hear genuine feedback, like whether it is genuine ideas from the journalist, something that they feel, as long as it is labeled that. In my content, when I talk about history, there are facts. There are things that are proven by primary documents. But I always end with how I feel. And I think that is recognizing the fact that there is no such thing as no bias, because everyone has bias. And this is my point of view. I am sharing with you. You may agree, you may not. But I think that's an important part of that genuine element in social media, that you are coming in as a human being and, I don't have makeup today, or my background is messy. That's the charm of social media versus the curated view of a newsroom.
For me, it's really important for our population to have a more educated level of understanding. That's why it's important for us to continue to fight for media literacy, and at the same time prioritize education. Because whatever content will be produced out there, everyone's still at liberty what kind of content. Remember during the time na yung mga sensational tabloids, yung Mars invades Earth, but it serves to a certain market. But they know it's not true. But we have to achieve that kind of mentality where we can identify what is true and what is not true.
Right.
But in social media right now, it has blurred all the lines.
Absolutely.
And every sector should take accountability on how we can handle this moving forward.
So same answer as earlier. It's everyone's responsibility. Ed, you had something to say?
There was a 2016 study done by Hunt Alcott, published in the Journal of Economic Perspectives. Ang findings nila, among many other findings, was despite what they say, people actually like partisan news.
Of course, because it validates your own belief systems.
But despite that, people will always insist, we don't like bias. But they're biased. So there's that conundrum, parang, ano ba talaga?
Disconnect.
Oh, number two, there's a very, very big misconception about news media and bias. Of course, we all hate it when people say, biased kasi kayo eh. And sometimes I get that kind of, parang, sumuporta ka lang sa gobyerno, huwag kang biased.
We get that a lot.
Mali
Yeah.
yata yun. Suporta ka sa gobyerno, huwag kang biased. Anyway, but that's a misconception because people tend to think that we are supposed to be stenographers when we are not. Stenographers are those who write everything that is said in court. That is not our job. The job of the news media is to listen, digest, and use editorial judgment to decide what the media, the news media thinks. I know it sounds so parang yayabang natin, but what we think is relevant for the time, what is important. In a 3-hour press conference, mamimili ang reporter, anong importante dito sa 3 oras na ito? Sa isang buong araw, mamimili ang deskman, anong papakover natin? Yung Supreme Court decision, na siguro importante.
O yung hearing.
O may bagong launch ng shampoo at pampaputi ng kilikili. Mamimili ka. What do you choose?
And that's an editorial call in itself.
That's subjective, that's bias. Ba't mo pinili yung Supreme Court decision? Importante yun. Oy, biased ka. Gusto kong papuputi ng kilikili. So people still don't understand what we do and what our job is. I think that's more fundamental pa nga eh. What exactly is the news supposed to be about?
And the other side of that coin is we've seen the surveys where trust in media has gone down over the last several years. News avoidance is at a high. People get fatigued with all the bad news that we deliver every day. And also on the other side of it, they start to trust traditional media less. What's the answer to that? Is there any way to counter that at all? Does anyone have any ideas?
I quickly lang, I suppose the answer to that is better, more compelling journalism. More compelling meaning, parang, let's not sit on top of let's not sit on the stage and preach to the people downstairs. Hindi ganun eh. People get mad at us for doing that because we've been doing that for so long. We go down to the weeds where we also come from and talk to people and give them compelling stories.
Does going down to the weeds mean dumbing down the news? Okay.
No.
That's another misconception, right? So how exactly does that look?
It's looking for a way to tell the story in a better manner. It's finding what is, what was that we used to say in PCIJ? Make the important interesting and the interesting relevant. Tama ba yun? Yeah, tama.
For us,
Lucien.
being part of the traditional media, as traditional as a newspaper, no matter how times have changed, no matter how much we have adopted, we still stick to the basic role of the newspaper. Number one is we tell news as it is, and we report it according to national importance. What you see on the front page are the things that are important to most of the Filipino people. Number three, we keep national issues at bay. If there's confusion out there, there's something that at least a medium that you can rely on that creates order in all the confusion of information that is out there. I think that's the most important thing that we have already, we have stuck and we intend to keep moving forward, no matter how much the landscape or the audience will change.
Yeah, we have no choice at this point. Tam, I'll give you the last word, then I'll open it up to Q&A.
So whatever problem you mentioned just now is totally the same in my country, but I can be quite helplessly optimistic at some time. We have made some changes to the format that we tell stories. For instance, for bulletin, TV bulletin that we used to produce, it contained of maybe 7 to 10 story summary. But now we are trying to pivot to maybe just doing 1 or 2 issues of the day that can interest people, because the habit of people, for instance, visiting site, say 3 to 5 times a day last time. Now it's probably just once every few days. So they just want to know that one very interesting topic, but in depth. So those are the changes that we try to make by empathizing our audience behavior. Yeah.
That's interesting. So more depth, less breadth. At this point, I'm going to open up the floor to questions. I'm sorry, I can't read the placard there, but I believe there are people going around with
Over here,
mics.
Reg. Hi. Hello. Over here.
I can't see.
Right. Thanks.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks to our media panel for your insights. And we just have a couple of questions from Miss Anna from Signal IT. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon po. I have two questions po. First, how should the journalist code of ethics guide the use of AI in journalism? That's my first question. And second po, how can journalists protect press freedom when social media fuels division and misinformation? So, I observe po kasi a lot of here are student journalists. So, maybe we can help them and guide them as well. Thank you.
Use of AI in code of ethics, which is something that we were going to get to as well. And then secondly, I'm sorry, what was the second question again? Sorry. Press freedom. What about press freedom? How do we uphold press freedom in a digital age? Is that it?
Yes po.
Okay.
And since in social media, it fuels division and misinformation po.
Thank you for that. I'll give the second question to Ed. Lucien, do you want to take the first question? Lucien and Tham.
It's applying the same principles of the code of ethics, whatever how technology has already changed. In terms of AI would be able to create its own content, but it's up to the publisher, for example, or the writer that has to cross-check and act as take the role of an editor to look at the content, because what at stake is yourself, whether you use AI or not, it's still there's still that human factor that has to determine what has to be shared out there.
Yeah, it's the same. We always make sure we have human in the loop. And I just want to add one more thing. Despite me being so optimistic about my industry, when it comes to AI, I'm being very realistic, because there are news reports around the world about how that is already that is affecting job creation. And I feel that for everyone in this room, we have to be aware of that.
And the other side of it, Tham, as well, is let's not forget that existing AI models are trained on our content. It's all the
Exactly.
content we put out there, right?
We should totally have another session just to talk about big tech
Yes.
company and
So
that
how do we
issue.
even begin to protect intellectual property, for instance, right? Any
Yes,
ideas?
protecting your intellectual property. But what is really important is how much. Number one is how much input that you can give in trying to shape the AI, in order for you to serve the kind of content that you exactly want. That's number one, and number two is in terms of how it can fit in the entire process of having AI and humans interface and be able to create better content.
Fantastic. Ed, upholding press freedom in the digital age.
Can I jump in sa AI na rin?
May alam ka rin sa AI?
Oo naman, nag-AI ako. I suppose it depends. I suppose it depends on what you use AI for. For example, if you use AI to create imagery, then you have to declare. It has to be clear na this is AI content. This is not a photograph. This is not a video of the actual incident. So to me, that's clear. But for example, when I do explainers, I use AI, but I use it very carefully. I use AI. Kasi dati, kailangan mo i-Google. Before that, kailangan pumunta ng library, nag-index cards ka, Dewey Decimal System pa yun. Ang hirap ng ganun. Now, you can just go to AI and say, for example, draw up a list of laws that have to do with conflict of interest. RA 6713, Code of Conduct for Public Officials and Employees, Anti-Graft and Corrupt Act, Practices Act, lalabas yung mga yan. Now, it's up to you as a responsible AI user whether you take that for granted as gospel truth or whether you check each and every entry. So you look up 6713, Code of Conduct, then you read it. But the first step for me would always be in doing my explainers is I will ask AI to help me collate references. And then I check the references. That is where, that to me is the more important thing. You check the references. And then you can proceed from there. So it's a big step forward na compared to, for example, doing Google or doing the usual library search. Laking bagay eh. So it might help you as well. But yun nga, bear in mind, napakalaking halaga yung double-checking the references.
Because it does get a lot of things wrong. And also, you need to declare it.
Hallucinations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yun.
Reg, I think Gretchen has a question over there on that side of the room, yeah?
Okay. We have a question from Albos Gandawali.
Thank you so much, Miss Gretchen. And thank you so much as well to our panelists to really giving us their insights and advice on safeguarding the truth through MIL. So my question would be, there are many people nowadays who still chose to ignore verified truths and fact-check information because of their political biases or patronage. This has been noticeable during the 2022 and 2025 national elections. As individuals, how can we address this kind of situation without forcing our opinions or truths on others? Thank you.
Siguro simulan natin kay Miss Mona kasi
think that's,
parang nag-nudge siya eh.
I think that's a $1 million question. Balik na naman tayo sa
Immediately,
whether we agree on facts.
Yeah,
Mona.
immediately after the election, I actually took part in an experiment, a social experiment, where a group of content creators were talking to the left, to the right, and to the middle. And the most engagement came from the middle. It is when you talk to the middle, those who in your mind would not have any bias. You just talk from the heart or from general topics and then steer it to a particular direction. That is where we got the most engagement. So my recommendation is never to come out too strong out of the gate na I'm red, I'm blue, I'm pink. Diba? So I think the intelligent thing to do is to come out with more questions for those who are listening to you rather than answers. Like, oh, bakit kaya ganyan? O ba't nangyari yan? How do you think we got here? And in that engagement, that is when they would come up with the answer themselves. And this is also the same technique that I use for older people. So if you want to fight your parents about their political bias, don't throw facts at them, ask questions. And they will actually come to the right conclusion, I am hoping, on their own.
But Mona, I don't think anyone declares outright what color they are. Nobody ever says outright, I'm red, I'm blue, I'm yellow, I'm black, whatever, right? You find out, it's more insidious than that. It's more subtle than that, right? You find out through the angling of their posts, for instance, and that takes a bit of time. So, yeah, so...
Correct. So it's not about, so what you need to do as a creator of content, and that's the perspective I'm taking here, that is really where you come out with something factual, something supported by general knowledge or facts and research, and then you spin it the way you want it later. But to have that agreement on where we are coming from, this is the situation we are in right now, and we agree on that, that's actually the best way. If they are proposing a particular corner, no, this is actually what happened. Well, no, not really, because this is the fact, right? So who do you think benefited from releasing that information? It's when it's almost when you have that like journalistic kind of approach to it, the questioning, that I think at least in the case of my titas who I've had this conversation with, it actually comes out to the right conclusion when you guide them there through questions rather than through answers.
Ako, I think what comes hand in hand with media literacy is also, I think, we should also push for values formation on social media. We need to be kinder on social media. We need to observe more etiquette, and I think we just have to identify what those things are, because the best solution, kasi whether you're red or blue, it will never end. You will stick to your bias, and there's nothing that you can do to convince the other party that you want to be blue. You cannot make red blue, and you cannot make blue red. But the best recourse is, let's agree to disagree, but I take your point, and probably we can work on better things, no matter how different we are.
That's a great point. Thank you, Lucian.
Yeah, we have
Do we have another?
one last
Yes,
question
go ahead,
from our
Charles.
good friend from Smart. His name is Skip. Take it away.
Hi,
Hello,
Skip.
hi. So I just have a question regarding SOCMED. I'm just building on Ms. Mo na kanina regarding the comment section. Should the news as an organization engage the commenters? Because if you look at the comment section, it can resemble a battleground. I mean, you posted a video of the news of the story, and still some people would push their own agenda sa comment section. Should the news as an organization also engage yung mga posters sa comment section?
I'm not from a news organization. Maybe you should ask the news organization about that. But for me, in my personal space, I hide, block, delete. Because they multiply.
If it's damaging, we hide. If it's damaging or libelous, we hide.
Sam and Ed, should the news organizations get involved in the comments section?
So in my country, my newsroom particularly, we have been fined and found guilty because we did not remove a comment by our readers fast enough. So we are, as a property owner of the website, we are being held accountable for comments. So that had happened. That's why we have a full-time moderator team moderating our comments. So that's number one. We do have a segment that's called Your Say, which we feature what we consider is reasonable, sound comments from our supporters, from our readers, and they loved it. So that's how we treat our comments, and that's how we interact with them.
That's a never-ending task, though.
Yes, but it's very popular, and people loved it because they feel that this is a community where their comments and their sound and their voices are being, appreciated.
I think that's a landmine kasi, whatever you do, somebody will always disagree with what you did when you react to a comment. I mean, I'm talking about the news social media accounts. It's a landmine. Wala kang panalo dyan eh. Lahat aawayin ka eh. Bagay, it'll get you more engagement, but I don't know how your credibility goes. Now, as far as for example, my personal Facebook page is concerned, I'm pretty clear with my own rules eh. You can argue all you want, you can say anything you want, pero pag bastos ka, gera tayo. I will respond appropriately and then I will block you. I will respond because I do not want you to have the last say on my page and spreading fake news on my page, and I will block you. But ako lang kasi, I will not delete because I am hoping that somewhere down the line, a few years from now, you will maybe come back and look at your comment and say, mali ako. Nakakaya itong sinulat ko.
There's some
That's
platforms that don't hide eh. So yun, I delete.
I mean, Ed, to be fair, isn't that a bit of a wishful thinking? Because you're assuming that these are all real people. A lot of them are trolls.
Yeah,
So help us understand why you put in the effort.
Well,
to
I don't
counter
think a lot of them are trolls. A lot of the people I engage with on my...
are real people.
Are real
How
people
do you
kasi-
know they're not paid, though?
It doesn't matter if they're paid or not. To me, if you go out of your way to write on my wall, and you look at their history, their family, they have families, they have their kid smiling at you from their profile page. Eh. So a lot of these are true believers. Yes, maybe they started off with trolls and getting encouraged to go and fight you. But in the end, these are real people that you engage with. Eh. I know what you mean. That's wishful thinking that eventually they'll come around and no. Pero kasi if you just block them, for me, if you just block them outright and not respond, Number one, they get the last say. And number two, ako kasi I don't delete eh. If I delete, then they will whip up their friends into a frenzy and say, that guy, napahiya siya. I was able to make him bara. Kaya let's all go to his page and troll him. And then it never ends.
We have a question on the side of the room. Final question.
ahead,
but
Gretch.
before we get to that, I'd like to add to what he answered in terms of responding, because I do get the same amount of bashing on my end. Ano? It's always a matter of managing narratives and truths. If you feel that the truth is going to be twisted against you in a way that will leave you helpless, I'd say respond to it. Kasi if you need to voice out your side of the story, and if you need to straighten things out, if it matters to you, if hindi kayo makatulog nang hindi nyo pinapaliwanag kung ano yung facts on your side, then go ahead, respond. But always know that alongside that response, you have to manage your own mental health. 'Di ba? Kasi pag ikaw ay nag-respond, malamang ito-troll ka times 10. So, depende na lang po sa inyo yon kung ano yung tolerance niyo. Si Edling, parang matibay. Okay, final question from the students here. Your school and your question.
Good afternoon. So, I'm Shea. I'm from La Estrella Verde, the official student publication of DLSU Dasmariñas. So, I have a question. As campus journalists, it's inevitable for obstacles to affect our pursuit of the truth. Sometimes there are issues regarding press freedom, fake news, and even sometimes personal risks. What advice could you give to young journalists and aspiring journalists who are faced with the threat of being silenced? Thank you.
Slightly different from our topic today, but nevertheless a good question. Everyone gets a say in this. Let's kick off with Lucien. Advice to young journalists that are facing a number of risks, physical, online, everything.
It boils down on how you stand for what you write. That's the most important thing. What you write is something that you'd like to express in pursuit of truth. And in the pursuit of truth, it really boils down to your commitment in being a writer and how much stake there is. And sometimes it goes to that extent. Whether it can threaten your life, that's why that's how journalists are being a true journalist to its word.
Thank you, Lucien. Sam?
Very short answer. Audit the kind of support you will get from your campus or the organization that's backing you. And there are a lot of material that's available online. You can look at GIJC. There are international journalism organization that has very, very good guidelines on how journalists can do risk assessment and get support.
That's absolutely true. There are a lot of good journalist organizations out there. Mona?
Well, I'm
Young
I was never a
journalists or
campus-
content creators?
Yeah, I was never a campus journalist. But as a content creator, I've actually received requests to boycott something or to not support something. And my response there is, of course, nobody can tell me what to do. But also, I think that open conversation on things always is the way to go. If they are trying to silence you, then you have to keep the conversation going so that you can leverage on whatever information they have to share with you for your next steps. You know, you have to be a little strategic about getting what you want.
Thank you, Mona.
I've come from a lot of newsrooms already. Tinimanda kami ni Erap ng libel in the Manila Times before. We had to resign. There are things you have to fight for talaga. Okay, let me back up a bit. Very quickly na lang. Okay. There's also this misconception that as a journalist, your biggest battles are libel, or that they're bang 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 covering crime and war. No, your biggest battles are not in Mindanao or in Samar or in Bicol. They're not in Basilan. Your biggest battles are in the newsroom, where you get to decide what you fight for, what goes on air, what does not, what you value, and what you think is trash. Madalas, mas nakakatakot yun. The other things, yung bang, 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 that's the romantic thought of what a journalist does. Very few people actually do that. Matakot ka sa newsroom. Dahil doon ang labanan.
That's pretty scary thought. But what's your best advice for that, for her and her cohort?
Libog! Ay, sorry.
Ikaw, mami-misquote ka na talaga after
No,
this.
it's passion for what you do. It's okay. Sige. Okay. Very simply, fundamentally, magbasa, magtanong. I know that sounds so simply stupid or stupidly simple, but man, ang daming reporter ngayon hindi nagbabasa. Ang daming reporter hindi nagbabasa. Paano pa yung mga taong bayan? Even we have lost that love for reading. We're all into short form, and that's fine, but we're hoping that will lead us to deeper things as well. Diba? So let's go back to loving the habit of reading, inquiring, asking, questioning, challenging. That's where it starts.
That's a great answer. Dagdagan ko lang yung sagot ni Ed, which is when she says magbasa, you make sure that you read a wide range of publications, not just local media, international media, research papers, consume content on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, everywhere. Just, and then that's what's going to make you discerning as you imbibe a lot of these other different perspectives. Okay, I think, do we have a last question or that was it? Okay, fantastic. I'm being told that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Please give my panelists a warm round of applause.
And a big hand for the moderator for this panel, Regina Hing. Maraming salamat. Let's have a photo op with the whole group. All right, thank you very much to our second panel.
In 2025, technology definitely is the great multiplier for the flow of information and disinformation, which actually brings us to our final program segment, Technology, Navigating the Age of Artificial Intelligence. As we know, artificial intelligence is both a profound risk and a massive opportunity for all of us. The question is no longer whether AI will shape our future. The question is, who or what will shape AI's values?
Well, we saw how the media protects public trust, but as we move through our storytelling spine, there is a powerful shift happening. Truth is no longer just mediated by journalists. Technology has become the new amplifier. Our final panel for this afternoon will tackle the most pressing risks of AI-driven misinformation and how platforms and innovators are developing tools to protect the truth and ensure corporate accountability. Once again, to our audience, you may send your questions via Slido. Our panelists will try to answer them at the end of the session. Please do scan our QR code to access the Slido app.
All right, on to our panel. First off, he currently serves as the head of corporate affairs for Maya, where he leads the company's government affairs and communications, shaping how technology builds trust in the digital economy. With nearly 2 decades of experience as a public affairs executive, he is also known for his previous work as the head of public policy for ByteDance in the Philippines and Malaysia, representing platforms like TikTok. Please welcome my good friend, Mr. Tof Rada.
Mr. Rada, formerly from TikTok, now with Maya, which has just been named Best Digital Bank. I saw it in the news this afternoon. And speaking of TikTok, now representing a major platform as head of public policy for the Philippines at TikTok, he leads government relations and oversees policy expertise and relevant outreach. He was also part of the Southeast Asia Government Affairs and Public Policy team of Google, heading the Philippines, Cambodia, and Laos, and the Public Policy team of Uber, heading government relations for the Philippines. A lawyer by profession, Yves has a degree in philosophy from De La Salle University, and he graduated from the Ateneo School of Law. A bit of balance there, I see. From ByteDance Philippines, let's welcome government relations and public policy lead, attorney Yves Gonzalez.
All right, next we have the head of the Media and Information Literacy and Digital Competencies Unit at UNESCO. For nearly 20 years, she has been advocating for and promoting freedom of expression with various international organizations, including the OSCE and UNESCO. She also holds a PhD from the Pantheon Assas University, and before joining UNESCO headquarters, she spent 8 years at the UNESCO Liaison Office in Brussels, where she was responsible for implementing major projects and managing partnerships all over the European Union. Via live stream from Paris, please welcome Miss Adeline Hulan. Hello, Adeline. Hello. Glad you could join us, ma'am.
Bonjour, tama ba?
Bonjour.
Tama ba yung pag sinabi ko?
Oui, oui.
Oo. Good day to you. Thank you for joining us all the way from Paris. Next up, we are bringing the perspective of civil society and advocating for digital rights. She is the executive director of the Foundation for Media Alternatives, a non-government organization championing digital rights in the Philippines. Now, through her leadership, FMA has been active in creating awareness on online gender-based violence, promoting the feminist principles of the internet, and leading discussions on privacy and data protection. Now, she brings a crucial human rights perspective to this technology debate. Let's welcome her on stage. We have Miss Liza Garcia.
And to be the moderator for this vital discussion, we welcome one of the key representatives from our partners at UNESCO. She is the head of Unit for Communication and Information of UNESCO Jakarta, serving the Philippines and other regional countries. Prior to her current role, she worked on the Memory of the World program at UNESCO headquarters in Paris and spent time working for human rights and media NGOs, including the Global Editors Network. She holds a master's degree in Media and Communication Studies from the London School of Economics. Please welcome Ms. Ana Lamtadzi.
All right. It is time for a critical discussion on navigating the age of AI. Let the technology panel begin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. This is our final panel. I hope the energy levels are not too low. Please bear with us. We'll have an interactive discussion for about 45 minutes, and then, like with other panels, we'll have a chance for Q&A. So with the education and media panels, the question of platform accountability came up a lot. And indeed, in this panel, we will discuss how media literacy can be integrated in the governance of platforms and what that looks like. In this panel, we'll also expand on the definition of media literacy. Sir Ramon here in his first panel talked about how at the end, essentially media literacy is about, of course, critical thinking, but also about having choice. And in this panel, we are going to talk about what meaningful choice and autonomy means for users who are using digital services and products, to what extent this autonomy can be expanded. So let's start off with the first basic question to kind of set the stage. For each of you, could you tell us, what does user empowerment mean? Just in a minute.
Okay. Well, user empowerment is like having a choice yourself, being able, if it's in the digital space, having a choice of which platforms to use, what to share, what not to share. It's also being able to choose the content that you want to see and being able to opt out of platforms if you're not satisfied with it, if it's not something to your liking. That's just one.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Yes, please.
Specific to TikTok, user empowerment means that you have the ability to control your feed. So you have the ability to control what you would like to see by liking or by favoriting it, or you have the ability to control what you do not want to see. So if you see something that is not according to your taste, you can choose to see less of it, right? And so by giving users the ability to curate their own feeds, we empower them to actually have a feed that is both enjoyable at the same time, educational and informative for them.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My point of view is that empowerment is always linked to responsibility. And when you talk about digital literacy, I always see it from the lens of shared responsibility. And perhaps through a catchword, probably through the word VET, V-E-T. And to me, that means vigilance, education, and technology. So these three things are very important for users. Vigilance, because you shouldn't be taking things at face value in the digital age. Second, you have to constantly educate yourself. The previous panels talked about that at length. And of course, technology. You have to have a safety by design perspective as a tech company, and also continually update your systems to reflect that.
Great, thank you so much. And let's go to Adeline.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Just to say on user empowerment, I'm as the lead of the Media Information Literacy Unit at UNESCO. Most of the work we do is obviously very much concentrated on user empowerment. And over the past decades, user empowerment always very much seen as capacity building of users. This is what we've always focused on, changing school curricula, integrating media information literacy in lifelong learning and informal education. But with the fast-paced changes of technologies, we've also changed recently our vision of user empowerment. And this kind of goes in the same direction that what was said by the previous speakers, is that user empowerment needs to be a shared responsibility. And we need to change the idea that user empowerment is solely the responsibility of users because technology are changing too quickly. So it's basically empowerment means creating an environment where users are supported by system technologies and policies to make informed decisions.
Great, thank you so much. I think indeed this is a good segue to our next question about online harms and risks and how user empowerment can help to mitigate them. And this question is specifically directed to our representatives from the industry, so TikTok and Maya. If you could tell us, according to you, what are the three main risks or harms that Filipino users are facing on your respective platforms. And you feel free to tell us also what are some of the trends you see, for example, in terms of different segments of society and how they are affected by these risks, whether they're the elderly or youth, women, journalists. Any choice is yours. Thank you.
On the TikTok side, I'd like to talk about our 3Cs, specific to your question, right? So number one, of course, is campaign. So if we are at the hashtag ThinkaMuna event, right? On the TikTok side, we believe that it's important to hashtag think twice. And then again, this is because one of the biggest harms that we're facing right now is misinformation and disinformation, right? I think that's something that the whole day we've been discussing. And at TikTok, we believe that before you consume, before you create, and before you share, you have to hashtag think twice first. Basically, just add an additional layer of thought into those actions, right? And so that is our main campaign. Number two, of course, is collaboration. And I talk about scams. One of the biggest scams, or one of the issues Filipinos are facing is job scams, for example, right? So at TikTok, we partnered with the Department of Migrant Workers to basically work together because we don't have all the answers at TikTok. But the DMW, they have a lot of the answers. They have the ability to detect what is a job scam and what is not. And so we collaborate with them on being able to remove these job scams that are plaguing our society right now. And then the third C is, of course, community guidelines. At the end of the day at TikTok, we decide what stays on the platform based on the public community guidelines, right? And as a good example there would be election misinformation, right? So during the 2025 elections, we worked closely with the COMELEC to take down content that violates our elections misinformation policy. And because when you spread election misinformation, you could affect the results of the election. So when you say the election date has been moved to May 13 or the election venue has been moved from this place to that place, that is definitely something that we have to take down. It is a violation of our community guidelines, and when it's reported to us, we take it down.
Okay, so just to follow up, so you mentioned mis and disinformation as an online harm and risk, scam, and then special like crisis, let's say, or special situations perhaps during elections. Could you just quickly tell us, like at TikTok, how do you actually assess risks? Risks are something that are evolving. They're not the same for different types of segments of population, obviously. So just tell us, do you have a special process? Do you have a special team? Do you apply, for example, special policies in times of elections or during natural disasters or any kind of crisis?
Sure. So when you talk about risks, there's different kinds, right? So again, when you talk about elections, it's pretty clear cut, right? When somebody says the election is on May 15, that's something that even automated systems will be able to detect and immediately take down, right? But again, there are some that require some specialized level of assessment, like job scams. While a TikTok trust and safety person could look at content and not be able to figure out whether such content is a job scam, a partner like the Department of Migrant Workers could tell us this is a job scam. And so we rely on our partners to be able to tell us if something is indeed a job scam, right? But then the hardest to determine are sometimes even legal questions, right? If somebody says libel, that is libel. It's not something that a company like TikTok is set up to determine, right? Or if somebody says somebody's a thief, somebody's a plunderer, that's not something that we're set up to determine. So there are times, those are the times when we would require, of course, on the side of the government, coordination with the government, a court order or a court process, right? And so not every risk is the same. On one hand, you can use AI to determine things. That's on the easiest part to determine. Child abuse materials are part of the easiest to determine because AI can do that. But on the other hand, there's a lot of things that will require coordination with third parties, governments, civil society to be able to help us quickly determine the risk level of a certain piece of content.
Okay, thank you very much. And our speaker from Maya, how about online risks and harms faced by users on your digital banking platform?
Sure. As you know, a financial institution, a lot of the issues that we see are not new issues. They've been here since time immemorial. What we have seen, though, is because of technology, with the advent of AI, deepfakes even, what has happened is these issues have become supercharged. Meaning, so I cite an example, for instance, investment scams, or even love scams, for instance. Now, because of generative AI, it becomes very easy for someone to produce a deepfake video or a photo of someone, pretending to be someone that they're not, to perpetrate these kinds of frauds and scams. And what it does at the heart of it is really, it's touching on the trust of people, right? Because when you see a lot of these scams, they try to impersonate people that are known to the victims, right? They make it appear like it's a personal interaction, when in truth it is someone, a third party, who is trying to perpetrate a crime. So that is really the danger that we're seeing. It's being used now. Technology is being used to possibly perpetrate age-old scams with a different face. Only this time it's magnified at scale because it's very easy to do, and these things happen in real time. So if you, for example, get scammed on a financial institution, all it takes is a couple of clicks. If you are not careful, then the perpetrators are able to proceed with that crime. So I think that's why I said that vigilance is the first step here. We should not be taking things at face value. Otherwise, we open ourselves up to a lot of these risks.
Okay, so different types of very sophisticated scams are the primary online harm or risk, let's say. And do you have any policies at Maya to, for example, identify different segments of society who are most affected by these scams, and then to have special, let's say, targeted policies or even educational materials directed at them to lessen the risks?
Yeah, absolutely. It also helps that we're a highly regulated industry, so we are also mandated to do that. But apart from it, I did say that we do have a safety by design principle. So a lot of the things on the app, you do receive nudges from time to time. If we see that there are certain behaviors that you undertake that might cause you to engage in risky behavior. At the same time, from the back end, we can also see if there are movements in your accounts that are not usual. And we do report this to the Anti-Money Laundering Council if there are in the form of a suspicious transaction report. So there are things that we are also using technology for. As a matter of fact, AI is also a great tool for us to detect these patterns of fraud and to also alert a lot of our users in terms of their susceptibility to risk.
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to now turn to Ms. Lisa for a perspective from civil society. How do you see the role of civil society in promoting user empowerment through media literacy? And maybe you can also elaborate on some of the key challenges that you see for Philippine civil society vis-a-vis the government and platforms for them to advocate for media literacy and for digital rights more broadly.
Okay, for civil society, we see ourselves as partners, of course, of government and other organizations in promoting digital literacy, media and information literacy. And we do this in many ways. Number one is maybe, and in relation to the first question, maybe I'd like to share what we've been doing in the past several years. Like one of them is mapping cases of online gender-based violence, or we call that now as technology-facilitated gender-based violence. We've been doing that since 2012, even before government started, coming up with statistics on online gender-based violence. And we have seen trends all throughout the years. And this is important. To look into these issues. Now we have things like non-consensual sharing of intimate images, sextortion. A lot of this abounded in social media especially, and this can translate. It doesn't stay in social media only, on platforms only, but this can translate in the physical space as well. That's why we have to look into these things. We have to tell our partners why this is happening, how these are happening, and how we can mitigate them. And what we do is, with the cases that we have mapped, is to come up with an analysis of them annually. So we come up with a report, statistics on them, and whenever we get invited to congressional hearings, we share them in public hearings. One thing that we should also realize is that it's important to look into this because of the harm that this causes on the women especially. And this can be harm to reputation. It can be emotional, psychological harm. And these are things that we really have to highlight because this can escalate into something worse. We have seen cases where emotional, psychological harm afterwards can lead to suicidal tendencies, etc. So that's one. That's why we connect with partners who are also members of civil society, also with the grassroots. We want to educate them as well because we know that it's not just us who should have the knowledge. We have to share it with everyone, especially nowadays that we're a lot of us. Of course, it's not all because there's still the digital divide. But a lot of us are already into the digital space.
Thank you so much. You're highlighting a really important role of civil society. Even though platforms have their internal policies and efforts to mitigate risks, and they do collaborate with civil society can basically bring evidence about how communities on the ground are experiencing and are being affected by technology and how their rights are also being affected. And the other point about online harm can lead to real world violence, and we do have to take these issues seriously. Just a quick follow-up on, you say, you share these statistics and research. What is the response, and how does it differ from platforms versus government? What is your experience when you share these reports, and to what extent they have impact?
Of course, we're not able to capture the big picture, because what we map are only cases that we're able to monitor
based on the limited
based
resources.
on reports and media. But these are cases, real cases that are happening, and some of them are actually reporting to us, coming to our office, writing to us through email about their experiences, and we see that this is important. Like when we share this with, for instance, the legislators, so more or less they know that something is being done here, and these are our findings, our recommendations, and if they pick on that, well, that's good. Of course, we only share that in our social media sites, on our website, and on, we also have a newsletter, online newsletter, where we share the findings. And it's enough that if there are also organizations who are able to pick up what we write about, and then they also come up with analysis, and then they share it with other people. And we think that that's good enough for us, although it's not much, but at least people are, learning about it, and maybe they can reflect on what's happening about it.
Even just the awareness-raising aspect of it is important. Thank you. Okay, I would like to move now to Adeline and broaden this question of online harms and risks and user empowerment from the point of view of governance. Yeah, so it's clear that platform governance is a challenge for all governments worldwide. And it's also clear that there is a need to strike a balance between ensuring safety, privacy, autonomy of users, together with their freedoms, freedom of expression, access to information, also just fostering innovation, right? And it's also clear that these issues are so complex, and they're also borderless, and so indeed they require multiple types of expertise and perspectives, what we usually, at least at the UN, call multi-stakeholderism. And so at UNESCO, we have been leading this multi-stakeholder process to develop the global guidelines for the governance of digital platforms. It's a result of 10,000 comments from around the world, including from the Philippines, and over 50 in-person deliberations. And then as part of this effort, Adeline led her work to develop a companion document to the global guidelines on user empowerment through media literacy and how it can be integrated into platform governance. It was quite a big effort, and now I'm going to ask you, Adeline, to summarize it in few words, if you can, in 5 to 7 minutes, what is this MIL action plan and how different types of actors, from platforms to government to civil society, can use it? Thank you.
Thanks, Anna, and thanks for the good introduction, making the connection with the guidelines of UNESCO on the governance of digital platform. Just to explain, and maybe to go back to what I said first at the start, explaining the vision of user empowerment. Just to say, we used to do a lot of campaigns, and going back to what the representative of TikTok was also saying, our campaigns on media information literacy were under the hashtag think before sharing, etc. It was putting a lot of the burden on users themselves. But so we changed within the process of developing those guidelines. We also changed the vision of empowerment, and as you said, with the concept of multi-stakeholderism, and the idea that user empowerment is also a shared responsibilities and trying to go towards governance of digital platform that is user-centric and user empowerment-centric. So in order to explain what we're talking about here, we produced these guidelines, the companion documents that I have here. And I'm sure, Anna, we can share the link at some stage. It's available online and has been translated in different languages. And this action plan is really designed to clarify what we mean by user empowerment in practice and to offer very concrete recommendations for the wide range of stakeholders. So it addresses the civil society, it addresses the media, the educators, but obviously the platforms, the content creators, the policymakers. And in fact, it does place a specific emphasis on policymakers and regulators because they are key in this process in establishing the national governance system and to hold platforms accountable. So this action plan is structured around 4 priorities, and I'm going to explain them very briefly, trying not to go into much details. The first priority is about helping users to understand. I mean, it may seem a bit simple, but it's really helping users understand the digital environment they navigate daily. So it's about the transparency and explainability measures available on platforms for users. And I'm going to try to give some explanations. And actually, some of the examples I will give on some platforms, they already exist. So it's not just to say this is what needs to be done. It's also a reflection about what is already existing or what could be done, etc. So about this transparency and explainability measure, it's, for instance, explaining to users why certain content appears on their feed. It's also labeling very clearly what is paid or sponsored content. I mean, this is something that, for instance, is also addressed to content creators. It's also about making the content ranking systems understandable to the users. So this measure is really to allow the users to grasp the dynamics that are shaping their online experience. And for that, we need, again, governance frameworks that incentivize transparency. We need policymakers that, in this respect, would play a very central role, but you can also have the civil society that contributes in developing tech-based solutions or awareness-raising campaigns to help users recognize and use such tools. And of course, I just mentioned before the content creators, but all of them, those creating content, have a role to play in explaining what, the content they are producing, if it's sponsored, not sponsored, etc. The second priority, so it's after the first one, it's to, once users understand how the platforms operate, is to give users a greater control over their experience. So this would be meaning that it's the idea of giving users the possibility to customize their content feeds. It's also to give them the possibility to reduce their reliance on centralized algorithm. It's, for instance, also giving them the possibility to choose the kind of content they want to engage with. So it's basically shifting from passive consumption to active decision-making, which is really essential. And again, it really then here it's something where we say it requires platform to rethink the design choices and to really offer user-centric features on their platforms. And for instance, here in the recommendations, what we say is that the regulators, the policymakers, they could support this by encouraging interoperability or choice architecture that respects user agency. Now moving to the third priority, The third priority is about empowerment through facilitating user engagement and redress mechanism. So it's basically to give users the possibility to engage. So the first one, as I say, is understand. The second one is to customize and to have the possibility to be active decision making. The third one is really to engage with the platforms. And here, for instance, would be to put in place the existence of access to appeal mechanism. For instance, when content is removed or flagged, to provide users with the possibility to provide feedback through participatory tools on the platforms, or even to just give the user the possibility to have explanation, very transparent and user-friendly on content moderation decision. So this is what, and some of the previous speakers mentioned that, it's really around trust and building trust. Users need to feel that they have a voice and that platforms in that respect are accountable. And here again, the regulators, the policymakers have a role to play in the governance system to ensure standards for due process. While, for instance, the civil society can monitor and implement and advocate for these user rights. And the last priority, it's really about information integrity and giving users some tools to evaluate the information reliability. So, and this is especially important in the age of AI-generated content, because we've mentioned that before, the multiplication of technology is supporting as well, like deep fakes and different information produced by AI, and it's very difficult for users to actually assess the credibility of an information. So we can do a lot of campaign like think before sharing, but still, we also need to give the tools to the users to actually understand and be able to assess the reliability of an information. And here what we are providing as the kind of recommendation is to actually develop some kind of user-facing indicators or providing digital fingerprints of watermarks for content that is being produced by AI, or providing very clear metadata about the origin and the authenticity of a content, the provenance of the content. So these tools should be intuitive and accessible, not just for experts. They should be really for everyone. And then, of course, we should then integrate them into literacy programs, etc. And we should also encourage content creators to use these tools, like, as best practices, etc., to make sure, because it's one thing to produce this kind of technology and to produce these tools, but then we need to make sure that they are used at scale. And then we need also to make sure that users understand and know about the existence of these tools. So I think I'm already over my 7 minutes, Anna.
That's okay.
But maybe just to say that this action plan is really designed to be multi-stakeholders, and it's really like each actor has a role to play. And we have very specific recommendations for each of them.
Thank you so much. I would be keen to hear from Yves and Toph from TikTok and Maya about, maybe it's a lot of information that's condensed, but essentially some of it you are already doing, as Adeline mentioned and you've mentioned as well. When it comes to integrating user empowerment at different levels of your operations, right, in terms of making your terms and conditions more explainable, accessible in different languages, giving control to users over how their algorithms shape their experiences, giving them possibility to engage and expect an answer in a reasonable time, for example, if their content was illegitimately taken down. Or I don't know, in case of Maya, it could be a different example. And then finally, giving them more tools to assess text-generated or AI-generated content. What are maybe some of the challenges, actually, in doing all of this inside your platforms? That's what I want to focus on, not on what you're already doing, which is something you've already discussed, and it's great, but just to kind of think through together, what are the challenges for platforms to integrate media literacy at these multiple levels?
Sure. On the TikTok side, I can give an example. I think one of the challenges is balancing transparency with providing too much information that bad actors can abuse, right? And so bad actors are out there. Bad actors will always...
Is in competition against TikTok? Or?
Not necessarily. I'll give you an example. right now there's flooding going on in the province of Cebu. And on your feeds, I'm pretty sure you're going to be seeing both real flooding as well as AI generated flooding, right? So there will always be people who will be trying to game the system to basically, let's say, solicit money, right? So creates an AI generated video of the Cebu floods and says, "Oh, let's do something for the people of Cebu. Send to my GCash or to my Maya account," right? So bad actors who are trying to game the system, right? Now, of course, on one hand, you want to be transparent with your decision, but on the other hand, you don't want to show your playbook to the bad actors because the bad actors, they will always try to game the system. And so you have to find that balance of providing the users with sufficient information on why content was taken down or not taken down, but at the same time, not give the whole playbook to the bad actors. Because again, I'm telling you, while users, they sometimes would report, bad actors will always try to understand how the system works and will always try to understand how they can skirt the rules and regulations within the parameters so that they can get away with what they're doing. And so that is just an example of balancing transparency with protecting the integrity of the system.
That's a really good example, how algorithmic transparency could be exploited. Right, thank you so much. What about at Maya?
Perhaps I'll circle back to the issue of scams, right? Because I think Eve's made a great point about how these scammers evolve their tactics. And we've seen a real-life example of this. For instance, how many of you have received a text message in the past year or so saying, "Congratulations, you won 5,000 pesos if you click on this link"? I think almost all of us have received that. And that was very prevalent, especially latter part of last year. So we had a concerted effort both in-app and off-app to make sure that people understood what the issue was, what you needed to do. But at the same time, we realized that there were different communications that needed to be done to different audiences. For instance, we started off with an in-app notification, and we also sent a push notification to all of our users to say, never click on a link, right? You know what the scammers did? They said, "Hi, we will never send you links, and just to make sure, just click on this line." Right? So they evolved their messaging to make it appear like it came from us, but they used the same language. So what we did was we countered. We used their exact same language. He said, "Never click on links," and then the second paragraph, "Stop. Maya will never send you links." Right? So that's like the ever-evolving cat and mouse game, or cops and robbers, if you will, fight that we have with these scammers. So we always have to be updated as well as to their latest tactics to make sure that whatever we put up in-app and off-app is consistent with what the realities are real-time. So that, I think that's a real challenge, especially for financial institutions, where timing is of the essence. If you can't catch it from the get-go, then it's very difficult to track back whatever was lost from your account.
Thank you so much. So indeed, so what you're highlighting is this very rapid pace of technological advancement and certain actors also keeping up a good pace with it. Let me turn to Adeline really quickly about when you were developing the MIL action plan, or in general for any kind of MIL related or user empowerment related regulatory framework or policy, given this fast pace of technological change, how do you think policies or frameworks can be, let's say, future-proof and kind of agnostic towards any type of technology? What are some of the key elements, do you think?
Thanks, Anna. I think it's a very difficult question because indeed the fast pace of changes is like, nowadays we see it every day that is very hard to keep up. But at the same time, what we think is very critical is three things: is to ensure like the flexibility. It's also to ensure the oversight and the experimentation of the policies that we adopt. So we need really strong oversight mechanism, that's for sure, and we said it from the beginning, but not just to monitor the compliance, but also to ensure that these policies that we adopt or the strategies, they are in line with emerging risk and technologies. And we need to test and learn. Not every solution is going to work at scale, and I think that's okay. But that's also why we've been piloting the ideas of regulatory sandboxes. And it's quite promising. They allow us to pilot new tools, new framework, new partnerships, and to learn from them and to adjust. And this kind of iterative approach, sorry, is key to stay ahead of the fast-moving tech developments. And with the AI-generated content is anyway going to be nearly impossible for users to continue detect what is real, what is synthetic. We can't train everyone to be an expert. So that's also why I believe we will also need to have AI-powered solution. So in short, to respond to your question, I think the platform, the policies must be platform agnostic. They must be adaptive and user-centered, and we need to have as well this testing phase and to be able to change them. So, not sure I responded entirely, but I think the most important is to be flexible.
Flexible and bring everyone to the table, I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
Indeed, it's very difficult, I guess, to keep the testing phase open. Yes, please, Yves, did you want to add?
I was just wanted to add to that question. Basically, look at looking at the outputs, right? Whether, because again, technology keeps on changing, right? But if what we're trying to avoid is X, regardless of how X was accomplished, whether it was through AI, whether it was through forcing people to do it, what we need to regulate are the outputs that we would like to prevent, and not the technology, not the means of getting there, but rather the harm that we want to avoid.
That's the platform perspective, right? Thank you. Okay. Final, or before final question, maybe to Lisa. We've been talking a lot about balance, right? When it comes to regulation, balancing safety and privacy with freedoms. And it's undeniable that digital platforms have produced so many opportunities and, you know, also all these challenges associated with different harms and risks. But the elephant in the room, I guess, is their business model of many digital platforms, right? Which prioritize user engagement and data collection at massive scale. And could these practices and the business model could be, some could argue, at odds with privacy, safety, autonomy, user empowerment. So maybe we'll start off with Lisa, but if anyone wants to jump in, please go ahead. How do you think realistically tech companies can reconcile this business model with the responsibility to ensure safety, privacy, autonomy, and indeed fundamental human rights?
Yes, of course, we know that tech companies, big tech especially, these are businesses. And as a business, the first, it's about profit rather than, ensuring that the rights of the users of these platforms. It's difficult, but I was just reminded of, there's this, the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. And tech platforms can also be part of that and be responsible companies by imbibing the principles that are there, respecting the rights of the users of the platforms. And this would include, of course, their rights to privacy when we talk about the digital platforms, rights to privacy, freedom of expression, etc., doing no harm. And it would be good if there would be remedies also that can be proposed by these tech platforms whenever their users, because they're getting a lot from the users. The data, the amount of data that we provide them, that is what keeps the businesses also going. Like AI is run by our data. So we own that data, and yet it's being used by them. We're not really benefiting that much from the data that we provide them. So maybe guided by the BHR, Business and Human Rights Principles, they can work with the UN or with other agencies to look into their responsibilities. And I would like to say, consultations also with civil society groups and with other groups would be good, so that they would know how we as users are experiencing the platforms. And as users, we may have a say on what we want to see, what we don't want to see, the experience that we want to see, and perhaps we can recommend, we can work with them to come up with community standards or policies maybe.
Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to jump in?
I think like in a lot of things, balance is always key, right? As private entities, of course, you cannot remove the profit from the equation. But I think what I can say is this. For us in Maya, we use a lot of the things that have been spoken about AI now, about the threats of AI. But I also see the opposite side of the coin, wherein we use AI as an opportunity to solve a lot of the problems we see here in Philippine society. For instance, there are a lot of people who are underserved by formal financial institutions. A lot of Filipinos don't have access to formal credit. And so we use AI as a tool to provide greater access to credit to a lot of Filipinos. We also use AI as a tool to provide further security, like we mentioned earlier, and as a tool for further financial inclusion. Because as you know, and as stated, the more that we know your behavioral patterns on the app, we get a sense of perhaps what you could need. Perhaps you could need a small loan for your business, for your sari-sari store. Perhaps you would need a credit card to pay for your extra bills, your groceries, or your tuition fees. So in that sense, and of course balanced with the existing laws in the Philippines, the banking laws, data privacy, etc., would give you a good equilibrium of how private entities can exercise responsible use of this data.
Great, thank you so much. You make it sound very easy how to keep this balance, but indeed it is difficult, I imagine.
A lot of back and forth with a regulator, and you're right. It's not. When I say it in two sentences, it makes it seem like it's a very easy thing. But you know, there are a lot of audits that happen with, in our case, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, as well as the other regulatory bodies, and the National Privacy Commission and others. But at the end of the day, we really look at it. We're not, you know, of course, a lot of the fears that have been raised here about AI. Like I said, we choose to see that there is also another side of this by which you can use AI as a force for good, and we choose to hammer on that to try and solve for a lot of the problem statements that we see in the financial sector here in the country.
It's very interesting to have you as a representative of the banking system, even though Maya is a digital bank, so it's still different from physical banks. But indeed, it's clear that regulation or governance for different types of sectors, such as banking, finance, or utilities, for example, are very different from attempts to govern digital platforms because of the way they operate and the borderless nature, etc. So indeed, this regulation is still catching up, right? Okay, thank you so much.
Rather quickly, though, I had the opportunity also to be in the social media space for a while. I think, again, I see a very similar pattern that emerges. You should be able to have a mix of, I think in some jurisdictions they call it the light touch approach, to allow the tech companies to continually innovate without stifling innovation, but at the same time still exercising the responsibility of following the laws of the respective markets that you operate in. So I think some of our panelists here talked about other countries. I have seen that firsthand, and I think that is perhaps a model we can look at to try and balance innovation with responsibility.
Sounds good. Okay. Anyone else? Adeline, did you want to add anything?
I mean, just one word maybe on this point, and just to say, I personally strongly believe in the creation of incentives when you speak about the business model. And I'm here wanted just to use this example. For 10 years, I used to work in the promotion of media self-regulation. And at the time, there was always, and there are still a lot of criticism that it's a model without teeth, that is very difficult for media to abide to professional ethical standards, when at the same time business model reward rather sensationalism, right? I mean, this is like long ongoing discussions. But the work we've done, and notably at UNESCO, was to create models that reward incentives, that reward media, that commit to professional standards, etc. And I think this is really something we can think about as well. And here again, it's not just depending on the platforms, it's again, a multi-stakeholder endeavor to create those incentives in order for platforms to have rewards when they are designed to be user-centric. And there are different ways we can use from, and again, I'm not going to explain again our action plan, but there are such examples in this document.
Right, arguably, the more power you give to users, the more maybe you'll grow the number of users as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, time for questions from the audience now. I might need assistance from Charles.
Need to give them incentives.
Will be awarded. Did we have the Slido open? Possibly we have received some questions there.
We have a question here on Slido from Michael Lance here in this part of the room.
Oh yes, I can see you now. Thank you.
He asks, should social media platforms and social networking sites be held liable for the proliferation of fake news and disinformation aside from content creators? Laki na smile nito, Frada. Oh. But I'll direct that question to TikTok.
Question. And again, it's about the balance, right? Yes, please go on.
It's a tough question. I think that's a question that the Philippine Congress is currently debating. And the previous Congress, they held multiple hearings on basically how do you balance fake news regulation with free speech, right? And I think that's a question that still the Philippines needs to answer, right? On the side of TikTok, what we believe is we have to be responsible for the things that are within our control. When you talk about content creation and basically democratizing the platform so that everyone can post, if you lean too much on platform liability, then the creators will say, just go after the platform, right? So basically, if somebody has a complaint, they're not going to try to look for the individual who created the content. They'll just chase the platform. And what will happen is it could basically make your country like not a viable place for platforms to establish themselves because of the high risk of accountability, right? But on the other hand, at the end of the day, we have to be accountable for our own actions, right? And again, finding that right balance, right? There are laws in the Philippines that already make platforms accountable for certain things. I'll give an example. The expanded child safety law in the Philippines, as well as the expanded anti-trafficking. Those laws impute liability on the platforms for not taking action fast enough on certain measures. And so that is basically the legislature finding that balance, right? And on the issue of misinformation, disinformation, I don't think that question has been answered anywhere yet properly. It is still an ongoing debate. It's still an ongoing discussion. On the part of TikTok, we will attend. There was a request from the House for us to submit a position paper, and we will submit our position paper on how we believe the issue on fake news and misinformation could be delicately managed.
Just one thing I'll say very quickly, for example, from the perspective of the UNESCO guidelines for the governance of platforms, one way we try to strike this balance between freedom of speech and addressing harms is not to focus on individual pieces of content specifically and holding people or platforms liable for that, but instead focusing on processes, policies, decision-making inside platforms and making them more accountable and transparent about that in terms of how they identify risks and when they identify them, what is the process to address it. That's one way to...
I'll give you an example. If you were to 100% hold the platform accountable for everything, it would lead to a situation where the platform will just err on the side of caution and take down everything, right? So basically, this looks problematic, let's take it down. And so what would you have would be a platform that basically nobody can speak their mind, because the moment there's a slight risk in the content, the platform will say, let's not be liable, let's take it down, right? So that's your extreme scenario, right? So that's why it's really important, like you said, to find that right balance. Does the platform have processes in place? Does the platform have removal mechanisms, redress mechanisms? And so that's what you should focus on instead of just saying, let's go after one particular side.
I
Thank
have
you.
an additional
More questions.
question to that for our TikTok representative. This angle has not been talked about this afternoon, but I believe it's important to add to the conversation, and it's about mental health. We've seen that in the headlines quite recently with all the happenings. And Senator J.V. Ejercito has in fact filed the Anti-Online Hate and Harassment Bill, or the so-called Eman Atienza Bill. What measures are you taking to manage hate speech on TikTok? And in what forms is that present on your platform?
Thank you. Thank you for that. So this is a very serious matter. So we saw the news yesterday. And so from the very start, I would like to clarify, to make it clear that hate speech, cyberbullying, abusive behavior is already prohibited in our platform. So that's first and foremost. And so, of course, now as legislative proposals like the one filed yesterday come onto the table, we would definitely be engaged on how we can further improve the environment in the Philippines. On our side, enforcing our existing community guidelines, but on the side of the government, if the government decides to create new laws out of this, we would definitely be a part of, we would definitely want to be a part of the solution on further fighting this issue on cyberbullying, on hate speech, and as well as, of course, protecting the mental health of our users.
Yeah, all right. We're taking another question from Slido over here on this side of the room. All right, so I think this is most relevant for Mr. Rada. How can AI tools reduce financial fraud and misinformation?
Thank you. That's actually a very important aspect of how we use AI. Several things. One, from the get-go, as you know, before you can open a financial account, you need to undertake a Know Your Customer KYC process. And our challenge here in the Philippines is you can use more than a dozen different IDs to open a financial account. So the challenge is, how do you properly verify that? Through the use of AI, we have dramatically reduced the turnaround time and the accuracy of verifying these know your customer requirements. So I think that aspect already allows for more financial inclusion and also allows a greater sense of security within the app. At the same time, as we mentioned, as regards misinformation and scams, we do have real-time alerts as to deviations within your account, and AI helps us to detect these patterns of possible frauds that could potentially open up your account to scams. So I think from the opening of an account and the actual security, of course, and to stress lastly, Charles, that while AI provides you with these signals, at the end of the day, we cannot let go of the human element, because while AI can accurately send you patterns and send you possible signals, at the end of the day, it is still the human side of it who would make that critical decision on whether or not these patterns are indeed leading towards misinformation or potential scams.
Still falls on the human to THINKaMuna.
All right, we got a question here from a teacher, Chil Aldenese from De La Salle, Dasmariñas.
Hi, good afternoon. And I have a question. This is actually in line with one of the social media platforms that are mainly used, especially by the younger people today. So many teachers are reluctant to even bring up TikTok in the classroom due to concerns about inappropriate content, data privacy risks, and the sheer volume of misinformation. Now, how can TikTok provide a verified, filtered, or education mode environment that guarantees student safety and allows us, educators, to confidently use the platform as a teaching tool for digital citizenship and media literacy without exposing our students to the risks of the main feed? Thank you.
So I'll answer that question in two parts. So number one, TikTok already has a STEM feed. So as part of your, if you look at your TikTok feed, there's a STEM option. So the STEM feed is a more curated version of TikTok that really highlights STEM content. And that's something that we've rolled out in many markets, including the Philippines. And so
STEM.
So basically science, technology, and so the STEM feed. So it's something that we are proud to roll out in many markets. But I think on the second thing, on the ensuring a safer environment, TikTok has tools we give to parents. I use it myself to basically restrict the content that your child sees. So when it comes to the TikTok experience, I think it's better for the parents to be the one to determine curating the content of their kids and not the teachers. So the decision to talk about TikTok or to allow the use of TikTok for minors, let's say, falls upon the parents. And so we give parents the ability to curate the content they could see, the number of hours that the child can use TikTok, and all of these other controls that are rightfully within the parents' responsibility as well as jurisdiction, basically. And so we empower parents to be able to decide, to determine the kind of TikTok experience that their minor children can have.
Does TikTok have plans to monetize views or allow users to monetize views in the same way that Facebook and YouTube does?
So we can't comment on future plans, but there are, we do have programs in place for creators. Because again, when I represent TikTok, TikTok in the Philippines is TikTok and TikTok Shop, right? And so on the TikTok Shop platform, creators are able to actually be part of an affiliate program where if they're able to successfully lead to a sale, they can monetize it.
Right, we have a question here. I suppose this one can be addressed to Ms. Adeline and Ms. Liza. What frameworks or policies could help ensure AI empowers rather than deceives through tech? Anyone can go first.
We still have Adeline with us, right?
Yes. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, I'm still here, Anna.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great question, and how to make sure that AI empowers instead. That was the question, right? That AI empowers instead of deceives. Well, it goes back to some of the examples that were given by the speakers. I think we need to keep in mind, and we need to take into consideration a lot of good examples where AI now can really be used to as a solution and not as a problem itself. And that's part of of our action plan here, is to say, well, we need to create incentives for civil society organizations, tech companies, etc., to develop such AI solutions that instead of creating problems, they're actually providing us with some solutions that help users. During the Global Meal Week conference we just had before, we just had it now in Colombia, we had actually several examples presented of apps, of specific technologies that really help, for instance, detect AI at scale, or even like provide some kind of automatic watermarking for users to know when it's synthetic media, etc. So I think those are really promising solutions. And what is very important is when we do media information literacy is to really then incorporate in our teaching some teaching about the existence of these tools and how to actually be aware of them. Because again, we can have so many technologies, but if people don't know about that, it's the same like if you do an appeal system and people don't know about the existence of such appeal system, it's not serving any need. And I have actually also, I wanted to react to the previous question very briefly. I found it so interesting, these questions about the question of parents and the reaction, the intervention of the speaker of TikTok. Just to say, like, for us, we've seen one thing. I mean, it's true that the parents play a critical role, in terms of defining for minors what they see and how to do this parental control. But what we've seen in our research is that parents themselves, they need a lot of media information literacy in order for them to put in place those control tools. Because, and this is a global phenomenon, a lot of parents are actually not really able to set up the phones. Sometimes they even go to their kids themselves to set up the phones. So it's very hard then to expect from parents themselves then to put in place this kind of control. So that's also why at UNESCO we've just been launching global initiatives to empower the parents with media information literacy skills in order for them to as well provide the control and the oversight to the kids. So that was just a quick reaction
Thank you so
on that
much.
as well.
Final words to Ms. Lisa. So Adeline highlighted more kind of tech solution-based ways for AI to empower rather than deceive. Would you like to highlight any other angle?
Yes, of course, when we talk about artificial intelligence, the word itself can be very intimidating, especially for a lot of people, because it's about technology, and maybe people don't think that they don't have enough capacity or understanding of it. So it's important actually to know what AI is all about. And if you know it, you can maximize the use of it. Like us in civil society, we also use AI not just in doing summaries, not just using LLMs, but for instance, we have an advocacy campaign on gender-based violence. What we did was we had a partnership with a PR firm where we came up with cases of gender-based violence, came up with stories, AI-generated individuals were talking about different experiences of different women. And I think it was, for me, it was a successful campaign because we got a lot of people commented on the campaign that we did, and they were sharing their stories. And I think that's one way of being able to use AI in a good way. We say that technology can be used for good also.
Thank you so much. I think we're out of time now. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. I'm very happy to have moderated a true multi-stakeholder panel. Thank you so much, and we'll move on.
Thank you very much to our moderator for today, for Miss Anna Lomtadze, as well as to our panelists for this afternoon for the technology panel, Attorney Eves Gonzalez, Miss Adeline Hulan, and Miss Liza Garcia. Maraming salamat for your time today talking about the technology side of the equation. We started this afternoon with education, and then the media, and now tech. Palakpakan naman po natin ang ating mga panelists for an insightful conversation on the technology that drives it all. Maraming salamat. Of course, after discussing all those, we hope you're all still okay and having fun. Okay pa ba kayo? Yes. All right, you can grab a drink, some food around, and with that, we'd like to first acknowledge the presence of our chairman, who is now in the room with us, Media Quest Chairman Manny V. Panghilinan. Thank you for being with us. We also have Malabon Mayor Ms. Jeannie Sandoval and Quezon City Mayor Ms. Joy Belmonte. Sana di kayo na-traffic.
All right. Now we are ready for the next part of our program.
From, again, the, education to media to technology, now we go to the governance side of this equation. Our next speaker is an accomplished professional, an entrepreneurial leader, and a current chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Philippine Red Cross Malabon chapter. Charles, do the honors.
All right. It is my honor to welcome on stage one of two pilot MIL cities here in the Philippines. Thank you so much for your hard work, sir. Please welcome Malabon City Mayor, Mayor Jeannie Nang Sandoval.
Good day to everyone. To our respected partners from UNESCO, the Asian Media Information and Communication Center, and our host from MediaQuest Holdings, THINKaMuna Pilipinas, thank you for bringing us together in this meaningful celebration of media and information literacy. I'd also like to acknowledge UNESCO Director Makit Kachono Hayashikawa, Ambassador Saija Nurmiren of Finland, and Mr. Manuel Pangilinan for their shared commitment to building informed and empowered communities through responsible communication. It is a great honor on my part to represent the City Government of Malabon as one of the media and information literacy pilot cities collaborating with UNESCO. This recognition is both a privilege and a responsibility. It calls on us as local leaders to shape and cultivate communities that are not only digitally connected, but also critically informed. Communities that value truth, empathy, and collaboration over misinformation and division. When we talk about media and information literacy, or MIL, we are not merely talking about technology or social media. We're dealing about something deeper, something rooted in society. It's about how people think, how they discern truth, and how they participate in society. In a time when information moves faster than reflection, MIL helps us pause, think, and decide with wisdom. It reminds us that while access to information is powerful, understanding and using that information responsibly is what truly empowers communities. Media and information literacy is no longer optional. It is essential. For Malabon, embracing MIL is part of our vision of good governance and citizen empowerment. We want a city where people are not just recipients of information, but active partners in shaping it. It is about creating a culture where truth matters, where citizens can engage with government openly, and where communication becomes a bridge that connects rather than divides. Our goal is simple but profound: to ensure that every Malabueño, not just students, but parents, teachers, workers, and public servants, can access, evaluate, and share information with integrity. And that's how real progress begins. We believe that by fostering media and information literacy, we're also strengthening democracy itself, because an informed public is the foundation of a just and resilient society. Today's conference reminds us that our work cannot be done in isolation. The challenges of misinformation, disinformation, and digital inequality are global in scope, and they require collective solutions. Through partnerships with organizations like UNESCO, AMIC, and MediaQuest Holdings, we are able to share ideas, learn from each other's experiences, and collaborate in building systems that make information both accessible and trustworthy. As we look ahead, may this gathering serve as a reminder that media and information literacy is not just a skill to be taught, it is a culture to be lived. Let's continue to nurture a generation that listens before it reacts, checks before it shares, and collaborates before it divides. Let us build communities where technology serves humanity and where information becomes a bridge, not a barrier to understanding. On behalf of the people of Malabon, I thank UNESCO, AMIC, and MediaQuest Holdings for including us in this movement. As we move forward in this shared vision, allow me now to present Malabon City's Media and Information Literacy Roadmap, our strategic guide for the next 5 years. This roadmap reflects our collective commitment to nurturing critical, responsible, and empowered citizens, where every Malabueño not only consumes information, but also contributes meaningfully to our city's growth and resilience. I'm pleased to present the Malabon City Media Information Literacy Roadmap, a strategic initiative positioning Malabon as a model city for inclusion, empowerment, and sustainability through media and information literacy. As we are declared as an MIL pilot city collaborating with UNESCO, this milestone marks a significant step in our commitment to advance media and information literacy at the local level, empowering every Malabon citizen to become an informed, responsible, and participative communicator. Our vision is an informed, inclusive, and empowered Malabon, where citizens can access, evaluate, create, and responsibly share information. Our mission focuses on integrating MIL into local governance, education, and community programs, ensuring transparency, accountability, and cultural inclusion. The foundation of our roadmap starts with awareness and education. One of our flagship awareness drives is the Bago Mag-Share Isip-Isip campaign that promotes responsible social media use and fights misinformation. We've also trained public information officers and youth communicators on fact-checking, ethical reporting, and effective message delivery. In education, media and information literacy is integrated into the curriculum of the City of Malabon University, our local university funded by our LGU. This is supported by the CMU iConnect project of the BA in Journalism program, which provides hands-on media experience through writing, reporting, and production activities. Journalism students also join studio tours at TV5, PTV, and Manila Bulletin for real-world exposure. Our MIL seminars and workshop also provide opportunities for participants to learn the fundamentals of media production, digital storytelling, and broadcast communication. For this phase, we are planning several initiatives to strengthen media and information literacy in Malabon, such as conducting an annual MIL Educators Congress that will serve as a platform for sharing innovative teaching strategies and classroom practices in MIL. Also, we plan to expand CMU iConnect as a learning by doing platform for both MIL and campus journalism. We're also planning to establish satellite hubs in selected barangay schools, cascade our workshops to all barangays and schools, ensuring that MIL becomes accessible at every level, as well as offer quarterly refresher courses for key offices on crisis communication. Lastly, we hope to create MIL micro modules in video and print for senior citizens and low literacy groups to ensure inclusivity. Under MIL Spaces and Digital Access, we promote inclusive access to information and learning. Key programs include the Intelligent Tutoring System for digital learning, community storytelling for local voices, and the Book on Wheels mobile library. We also maximize platforms like the 24/7 Alert app, tourism app, Tax MJS, eBoss, and social media to keep citizens informed and connected. Moving forward, we plan to set up MIL corners in all barangays, especially those with limited digital access, and create a library multimedia room as the city's central hub with digital tools and the intelligent tutoring system integration. MIL modules on fact-checking and civic participation will be added to the intelligent tutoring system, and the Barangay MIL Caravan will bring interactive sessions to youth and seniors. The next focus area in our roadmap is media and information literacy in governance and public service. Through platforms like the 24/7 Alert, Tourism app, Tax MJS, and eBoss, residents easily access city services and information. We'll also utilize the City Central Command and Communication Center, LED billboards in public areas, Malabon TV, and our local news on social media. In addition, we install feedback boxes and release PSTMO advisories to ensure fast and transparent communication with our citizens. We also have the DRRMO information booklet as an easy-to-understand guide for households on disaster safety measures. We also post fact checks on health-related information to combat misinformation. Building on these initiatives, we plan to embed MIL messages in everyday service points like health centers, advisories, and transport boards. LED billboards and SMS systems will be used for verified alerts, while Malabon TV will feature regular MIL segments on fact-checking and responsible sharing. A verified bulletin protocol for the Command and Control Center and PIO, Public Information Office, will ensure accurate, trustworthy public information. We're also planning to produce multilingual and multimedia MIL content on disaster preparedness and response that would simplify critical information and make it more accessible to people across different age groups and literacy levels, and train community-based DRR MIL ambassadors who will help validate and amplify official alerts. Now for our cultural development and heritage promotion. The Malabon Tourism, Cultural Heritage and Development Plan 2024 to 2030 will serve as a roadmap for sustainable tourism and cultural growth, outlining strategies to preserve heritage while enhancing attractions. Its companion volume, the Malabon Cultural Profile, will document the city's traditions, festivals, and landmarks as a foundation for future initiatives. Soon, we will also be launching our tourism TV, highlighting the colorful culture and tradition in Malabon. Moving forward, we plan to produce a coffee table book that will showcase Malabon's unique culture, history, and landmarks through striking photos and stories of its heritage, cuisine, and traditions. Designed for locals and visitors, it will serve as both a keepsake and a promotional tool to inspire pride in Malabon's culture. The final component of our roadmap focuses on community involvement, citizen journalism, and youth engagement, empowering Malabueños as storytellers and truth advocates. Through CMU iConnect, students produce and share stories that promote environmental protection, community action, and responsible citizenship. Our social media postings and seminars teach responsible communication and highlight the importance of environmental awareness and protection on social media. To boost community involvement, we plan to launch the City Citizen Journalist Program with training, mentorship, and airtime on Malabon TV. Projects like Eco Voices and Green Lens will promote environmental storytelling, where meal tips and Malabon meal ambassadors will spread media literacy in communities. The Info Smart Hackathon and town halls will engage youth and residents in civic dialogue, and collaborations with artists will create meal-themed films and podcasts celebrating Malabon's culture. As we have seen throughout the roadmap, our journey toward media and information literacy, it is not just about programs or policies. It's about people. It's about empowering every Malabueño to think critically, communicate responsibly, and participate meaningfully in our city's growth. By working together, our schools, our government, our communities, and our youth We can transform the way we create and share information. Through collaboration, we make MIL not just a concept, but a culture in Malabon. Thank you, and let's continue building a more informed, inclusive, and empowered city together. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Malabon City Mayor Jeannie Sandoval. Malabon City, of course, is a part of UNESCO's pilot media and information literacy cities around the world, and there goes those plans for the whole city in the coming years. I'm excited to see the citizen journalists that will come about those programs.
Yeah. So as I was saying earlier, Gretchen, we are well underway here in the Philippines. Thanks to the great work from our friends from UNESCO, Mr. Ramon Tuazon. Sir, maraming salamat po for pushing the envelope when it comes to MIL here in the Philippines. And again, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Team THINKaMuna for all of your hard work as well, making this possible. Maraming salamat.
Palakpakan natin. Maraming salamat. You know, you've been preparing for today for several months now.
I'm almost sad to see that we're nearing the end, right? But then we are near the end of our program.
But this is the start of things, right,
definitely,
Charles?
Definitely. Malayo pa, Gretchen. So, we have the other pilot MIL city in the Philippines. Our next speaker is a champion of human rights, gender inclusivity, and climate action, and is the first elected woman mayor of Quezon City.
Now, under her leadership, Quezon City has earned over 400 local and international awards, including 5 consecutive unmodified opinions from the Commission on Audit and 5 straight Seal of Good Local Governance Awards. She is also recognized internationally as a champion of the Earth by the UN Environment Program and was included in Forbes' inaugural list of 50 sustainability leaders.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us please welcome Mayor Joy Belmonte.
Thank you, binigyan niyo po ako ng pampatangkad. Thank you to Charles, Attorney Charles and Gretchen. To Mr. Manny V. Pangilinan of Media Quest, of course, he's the chairman. And our CEO of Media Quest, Ms. Jane Jimenez Basas. My dear friend, Mayor Jeannie Sandoval of Malabon City. Maki Katsuno Hayashikawa of UNESCO Jakarta. Adeline Hulin of UNESCO Headquarters and the head of the MIL unit. Other MIL partners and advocates, students, NGOs, friends. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. To our allies in upholding truth and knowledge, again, isang magandang araw. On behalf of the Quezon City government, it is truly an honor to take part in this important conversation. We thank Media Quest, PLDT Smart, the kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas, the International Association of Business Communicators, and the Public Relations Society of the Philippines for their invaluable support in this advocacy. Last month, a fake news social media post went viral, claiming that classes were being suspended for 6 days because of an impending magnitude 10 earthquake. In light of the consecutive concurrences in Cebu, Davao, and other parts of the country, the fear and subsequent clamor for preparedness were understandable. Pero wala naman pong ganoong announcement. At wala pa namang technology na makakapag-predict ng eksaktong araw at oras ng isang lindol. So amid this attempt at fear-mongering, we had to act quickly through our official channels, seeking to correct this information in order to calm our citizens. Such exercise forms a big part of our public lives today, as fake news sprouts left and right across our online spaces. Fake announcements for financial aid, fake social media accounts impersonating city officials like myself, and I have counted about 20 fake accounts already of myself, asking for ayuda. So ako, humihingi ako ng ayuda. Pero kung humingi po ako, bigyan niyo ako, okay rin lang po, ha? And even fake AI-generated photos and videos created in clear attempts to discredit and malign. These days, the most vital skill we can cultivate is how to think, the discipline of asking why and what if, especially when faced with complex situations. However, we must acknowledge that on the ground, so many of our people are immersed in the daily struggle to survive. As the system continues to fail them, poverty perpetuates while corruption thrives, creating conditions that hinder citizen engagement. After all, a mind occupied with survival cannot easily question, analyze, or dream of a better future. Studies from institutions like the World Economic Forum and the Reuters Institute reiterate that misinformation and disinformation are considered the most pressing risks we face, with over half the world's respondents, or 58%, worried about what is real and fake online, especially when it comes to the news. In this context, the danger is not just that people are misled. It's that trust itself erodes, compromising our ability to communicate effectively and engage in meaningful discourse. This vulnerability is staggering, as 24.8 million Filipinos are considered functionally illiterate, nearly double the number from 3 decades back. When a quarter of our population struggles with basic reading comprehension, how can we expect them to navigate the complex landscape of online misinformation and disinformation? Our response, therefore, should be strategic, unrelenting, and sustained. This is why we, in the Quezon City government, have embraced media and information literacy, or MIL, as a key advocacy. We are honored with our recent designation as an MIL pilot city, along with Malabon City, collaborating with UNESCO. But more than that, we understand that this is an immense responsibility. This designation builds upon the years of work that we have dedicated to elevating education and freedom of thought within our borders. For next year, our city government allocated more than 6 billion pesos, or 15% of our overall budget, to education programs, meeting the UNESCO benchmark of 15 to 20%. And I think this is much more than what the national government is currently spending on education, which is, I think, 4%. Our funds go to the improvement of our public school facilities, infrastructure projects, distribution of learning kits, and the expansion of our scholarship program. My objective is to provide 80,000 scholarships to Quezon City students by the year 2028. We also have our very own Quezon City University, whose course offerings are now accredited by the Commission on Higher Education. More than half of our graduates in QCU are the first in their families to earn a college degree. In a bigger push for critical thought among our young people, the Quezon City government has also started discussions with the New York Times Company to collaborate on launching a debate competition in all of our public schools. We envision this to be a platform where our students can learn how to be more discerning of the information they consume and to think critically using the knowledge they have gained. At present, there are no debate teams in any public schools in Quezon City, and our students do not know the mechanics of how to conduct a debate or how to argue a point. And this is something I believe is important for us to focus on. More broadly, we exert every effort to make reliable information available across multiple streams. For instance, our Quezon City Public Library has 34 branches across the city, serving as community hubs with books and other information materials. In the age of social media, we make full use of every platform to reach our people online. With over 1.3 million followers, we cultivated our official Facebook page into a trusted space where people can find reliable information about the goings-on in our city, from the quality of the air, to the day's weather, to the initiatives we are implementing. We also have our award-winning regular public services initiatives such as Usapang QC, an hour-long talk show that we stream weekly on our platforms, wherein we discuss critical issues in our city, and something called the Special Report, which is a short video complement to our issue-based Usapang QC. We designed our city government's official website with a chatbot, text-to-speech functions, and alt text for images, allowing even those with disabilities to access it with ease. Meanwhile, as part of our push for free expression and responsible media use, we will be holding our second Makifiesta Media Festival, which will bring together experts, creators, storytellers, and future communicators to explore how free expression, democracy, and the creative economy intersect. And I think many of you will be participating in our Makifiesta. And thank you so much for your support. Quezon City also recognizes the impact of media to educate, enlighten, and empower. This is most apparent in our Q Cinema International Film Festival, where we create space for filmmakers and audiences to explore various themes and narratives, coupled with guided discussions that happen not just in cinema theaters, but also in schools and other venues. As Q Cinema marks its 13th year, we are proud that UNESCO has affirmed our hard work with our designation as a creative city of film, one of the first in Southeast Asia, the second being Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. We understand that there is still so much to do, and we are running against time to ensure that our citizens are equipped for the ever-changing information landscape. It is clear this is not a fight that any single city, institution, or sector can win alone. This is where we hope our bayanihan spirit will come to play. Kailangan po natin magkapit-bisig para magtugunan ang suliranin na ito. It has been said, there is nothing that is more important in a democracy than a well-informed citizenry. The odds may be daunting, but may our collective resolve be very, very strong for us to be able to achieve this. The Quezon City government stands with you in this cause. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte. Siksik, liglig, nag-uumapaw ang mga plano. Oh. Mayor Joy, of course, on her third term, final term. And it feels like there's gonna be a lot to watch out for in the next years to come before 2028.
All right, once again, thank you to Mayor Jeannie and Mayor Joy for helping to push the MIL movement here in the Philippines as two of our pilot MIL cities. And what we'd like to emphasize is that, pretty much like what Mayor Joy said, it is not one sector alone that will do this. It's a multi-sectoral collaboration that we're trying to do from the national level to the LGU level and even down to our education system and ultimately to the business sector, right?
Na-excite ako dun sa debate teams all across the schools of Quezon City. Siguro sa susunod, marami nang nagbabalitaktakan ng mga residente ng QC sa barangay, bara-barangay, Pero ang pinakamahalaga dyan ay maging mapanuri, di ba, Charles? And that is the message for this conference. Let's think before we click. Let's, ano ba yung tagline ng MIL?
Dahil sa atin magmumula ang isang mas mapanuring bansa.
Yun.
That is our call to action for THINKaMuna Pilipinas. And just before we end the program, we have one last special surprise for you guys. Just a quick reminder, we still have a raffle at the end for several MWell bracelets and smartphones, courtesy of our friends from MWell and Smart. And as part of our surprise for the end of the program, our final speaker will be taking questions from our audience. This is our thank you for sticking around all day with us with our first MIL conference here. So please, one last time, do open your Slido apps for our final speaker.
We have a surprise Q&A session with the chairman himself. Sir, meron po bang limits yung Q&A? Mga bawal itanong. All right, let's introduce our next speaker.
Right, he is our esteemed business leader, the managing director and CEO of First Pacific since 2003. And he holds leadership roles across major Philippine companies, including PLDT, Smart, and Meralco. And of course, MediaQuest Holdings. He is the chairman. Please welcome our chairman, Mr. Manuel V. Pangilinan.
Thank you. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, Charles. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. May Q&A pa pala dito. Una-una kay Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte, Malabon Mayor Jeannie Sandoval, regards to your husband. Part of the Spice Boys, right? UNESCO Director Haya Shikawa. To my colleagues from MediaQuest, TV5 and One News, and our friends, a pleasant and wet afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining us for this MILCON 2025, a forum organized to discuss one of the most critical social and infrastructural challenges of our time, media and information literacy, with the theme, Truth Under Fire, Empowering Critical Thinking in the Age of AI. Like Mayor Belmonte, I was the victim of not only one, but several internet postings, ranging from Facebook, Instagram, and even Reddit, which I think can be rather controversial, right? A few weeks ago, a video of myself began circulating on Facebook. Not quite as serious as earthquake, but it looked like myself, spoke like myself, and as long as they invest, I was supposed to promise people money. So it couldn't be me, because I have no money for anyone and everyone. When I saw the video, I called Jane Basas of TV5 to say, hey, you must organize a conference on media and truth. So this was how MILCON was conceived and born. Seriously, that is fake news. I must give credit actually to MediaQuest, to Jane and her people who organized this consequential and timely conference. So thank you to our partners in UNESCO, which leads the global mandate to information access and critical thinking, both of which are needed by a multilingual and intensely social media society as ours. My thanks also go to my friends and colleagues, co-workers at MediaQuest, TV5, and One News, especially. But that fake media reminded me how easily we can weaponize technology to take advantage of people, or to use technology to compensate for all the frailties that make us human. That is why today's gathering is so critical. So we ask, how can we better tell what is real from what is false? And how can our institutions function in an environment where our perception of truth is doubted or debated every single day? In many ways, the way to look at information management would be both the supply of information, whether that's debated or doubted, as well as the demand for information. I noticed this crowd is very young. And I feel very old when I look at the students, especially in this part of the audience. But let me just remind you, getting old, there's no practice in getting old, right? Mayor Joy, I mean, your father is 86, right? 86. So the first question must be, how does one know the truth? Especially when it's coming from the internet, especially from ChatGPT. I had a meeting with Amdocs, the biggest and leading IT company in Israel, listed in New York Stock Exchange, and one of the best in the world. And one of the things that we talked about was ChatGPT. If students were to rely on their thesis or term papers from ChatGPT, how do you know that what you are writing about reflects the truth? In our days, we have to go to the library to check on books, read books. And our principal source of information is the product of scholarly work, the Encyclopedia Britannica. I don't know whether that still exists, actually, in libraries. But at least we rely on that. Now, I think they said that Gen AI now is very well adopted by ChatGPT. So they do, Gen AI is able to improve its sources of information, and they do provide the list of sources of the thesis or term paper that you're producing. So you could cross-check, and I think students should cross-check the kind of information they input into their work. It is easy enough to refuse the obvious untruths. The claim, for example, that the ocean is green, like LaSalle, or that Globe has the best network in the Philippines. Joke only. But deception these days rarely wear its masks plainly. My philosophy professor at the Ateneo, Father Farios, SJ, gave our class an example of how truths can be difficult to define or discern. He said, say you're driving on one of our ghost provincial roads on a hot sunny day, and you see ahead of you a pool of shimmering water. What do you call that? Mirage. The water does not really exist, but your experience of seeing it is, as such, real. So that story describes our contemporary condition. We are surrounded by illusions that appeal not to reason, but to our desires. We see what we want to see, and often what we most desire is what betrays us. Think of those emails from a Nigerian prince promising loans or riches. The text message that says you won a raffle you never join, or the scantily clad woman who says she's looking for a successful older man. Our group is built on businesses that connect Filipinos with electricity, with clean water, roads, and most certainly communication, together with the relevant infrastructure or network precisely to facilitate those connections. But what good is infrastructure if the information and data traveling across them are dirty, doubtful, or simply untrue, when the very digital air we breathe is poisoned with disinformation and untruths? Through THINKaMuna, we call on our people to think before they click, to question before they share, to ask not only about the content they encounter, but also their own biases. Is this true, or do I just wish it to be true? And I'd like to emphasize when we say THINKaMuna, we're not just about encouraging people to think more important than that. We're asking them to stop for a while, hesitate and doubt. As the great philosopher René Descartes once said, I think Muna, therefore I am. Of course, no one organization can guard or determine what truth is. Once, our duty was to check our own facts and present the news as we see them. Now we find ourselves checking the facts of others, vloggers, provocateurs, rage baiters, correcting falsehoods to no end. Those in media may sometimes feel like Sisyphus, or his more contemporary incarnation, our very able and active Secretary Vince Dizon. On the other side of the communication process, our duty is to decide whom exactly we can trust. This is the greatest argument why we need professional, reliable, credible, courageous, and independent journalists and news organizations. Not to offer something perfect or never get it wrong, but something whose mission it is to try to do it right and to be accountable when sometimes they're not. The BBC and Financial Times rank up there in credibility. But why does it feel safe to believe them? Apart from their long history of veritas, truth for them is a practice. It is not found, it is earned. If we pursue truth consistently, with care and with excellence, we build trust for ourselves and confidence amongst our people. I think Mayor Sandoval said this, alluded to it anyway earlier. THINKaMuna's mission, therefore, is to safeguard the truth. But truth is too immense, too vital to be contained within the walls of any single organization. So this requires a unified national mobilization movement. First, we need the government to champion MIL as a core policy initiative, integrating it into national security, education, and technology strategies. Second, we need the business sector, not just media companies, but all companies, to integrate MIL into their corporate social responsibility frameworks. Invest in training, invest in tools, and create workplaces where employees are trained to man the ramparts of truth and protect them from what's false and fake, to read beyond the headlines, to check before they share or forward. The strength of our democracy, the stability of our economy, and future prosperity of our nation hinge on the integrity of our information space. Because when truth falters from attacks, confidence wavers, and when confidence collapses, eventually, so does our economy. And finally, third, we must address the demand side, you guys, not just the supply side of information. In this part, the academia shapes students who can question bravely and think carefully, and tell our people that freedom of expression carries with it the obligation to think clearly, critically, and courageously. To conclude, we often speak of nation building in terms of bridges, towers, fiber, power plants, steel, and iron. But the truest foundation of a democracy is neither one of those. It is truth. A people misled cannot move forward, but a people informed cannot be defeated. Thus, my hope is that we all leave this hall resolved this afternoon. Maraming bumabaluktos sa katotohanan, pero mas madami tayong mas gusto ang katotohanan. Let us now grow weary of the work of discernment, and in the Lord's words, let us go forth and multiply. Let us invite more Filipinos into this alliance of truth seekers. We should not yield space to falsehood. We should not let noise drown out reason. We should not let lies become the language of our nation or any part of our government. I'm not referencing anybody specifically. We should teach each other. We should learn from one another, and we will prevail indeed. So again, THINKaMuna. Think first, speak through, and that is how we build our new future. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat, and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, Sir Manny V. Pangilinan. Now may we call back on stage Ms. Rahina Lay for the Q&A with Mr. Manny V. Pangilinan.
What a treat. It's not often that we get a chance to do a Q&A with our chairman, so this is great. So don't forget to send in your questions to the Slido QR code there. So, sir, to confirm, any video of you out there promising money is fake?
Absolutely.
Did anyone fall for it, by the way? Yung fake news ka? Did anyone click on it? And
No, I have no money to give anyway, so it's not a risk.
But seriously speaking, you care a lot about this topic, media and information literacy. Tell us why. Why is it so important to you?
Well, I'm an internet maven, right? So, but I do go to the internet. I don't post much because I don't have time. Because when you post, it usually attracts comments, criticism, whatever responses, and that I simply don't have the time to be able to follow through, no, by responding to some of them. The moment you do, it just creates a chain of reaction as well, and then you're deep down there and taking a lot of time of your time to be able to catch up or to respond to them. So, so I don't post much unless it is a matter of national importance. Then, like whether it's sports, for example, or something that is vital to our people, then I do post a position or a thought in respect of that item.
But it is pretty rare for a business leader to give their voice to a topic as important as media and information literacy. And the MVP group has poured a lot of effort into this campaign. What's the vision here? What are you hoping to achieve?
Well, I think it's manifested in this conference that we want to push for the truth, no? And we have a saying in First Pacific: you should tell the truth. If you tell the truth, you don't have to explain it, right? If you're not telling the truth, then you have to explain a lot of things. And minsan or madalas, magkakanda bulbul ka, di ba? Kasi you create parang sapot ng gagamba, di ba? It just becomes messy and, not good. Not good for this country, right? Not good for any country or any corporation. Because at the end of the day, the integrity, the moral values of any organization, whether it's the government, corporation, or even the country, will assure its long-term future, prosperity, and the like. And I think in my remarks before Wharton, there was a book written by a Wharton professor that says there's a correlation between the moral wealth of a country or a people with its material wealth. The higher the moral values of a particular people, the correlation leads to higher material GDP, higher material wealth for that country. No?
So it does impact the sustainability of, all the companies out there, right? Does it worry you when you see statistics like 24.8 million Filipinos who are functionally illiterate, twice the number over the last 30 years? Well, what goes through your mind when you see that?
But Jane just told me that just now. I didn't realize it was 9 out of 10, right? So, yeah, it's a serious problem. And it won't help that you reduce the budget for education and move it to somebody, as you take monies from the many and insert into the pockets of the few. That's not... Is that acceptable to you guys? I mean, I don't know the amount of the insertions. Is this being recorded?
It is, sir, on the
You're not
record.
going to put me on TV5
Sorry.
tonight, right?
Naka-live stream, sir. It's your chance to send them a message.
Well, the temptation to shortcut, right, is very high, especially when you to attain a certain level of wealth, no, in your life, which is I think true for everybody. But you at the end of the day, your wealth as a product of hard work and honesty is so much better. I mean, you could sleep at night because you know that you've earned it rather than the shortcut way, diba? It's no, but I can understand why the easy path to wealth is seductive. I've seen that firsthand in PLDT when we first invested in 1998. And it's very clear that in any corporation, that not just to be fair naman to PLDT, that if the people on top are doing certain things, the people at the bottom would say, well, if he can do it, why can't I do it? Right? So it just corrodes not only a certain level of the organization, but the whole thing eventually reach deep into the bottom layer of the organization, and then you're in trouble.
So it corrodes the values of the organization. How do you keep it all in check?
And it starts at the top. Starts at the top. So the solution, you start at the top. Because you cannot wipe out corruption in one go. When I spoke before the MAP, the Management Association, and because Al Panlilio used to be president of PLDT, I was the president, so I had to do him the favor of swearing him in and so forth. And they had 5 or 6 core principles or core programs for the year. And top of the list was to, I don't know what the word was, I don't recall it, but it's about corruption. Something like wiping out corruption. You ask yourself, my God, in 1 year? Good luck. I don't think so.
So you can't eradicate it in 1 year, in 2 years, but what role does literacy play in all of that?
Well, as I said, you start at the top. You start with the big ticket items. Forget about the petty crimes first. Because, that's hard to deal with because it's endemic, right, within the system. But if you start with the big amounts first, right, then slowly work down, slowly to the middle layer, then the bottom layer, then this will take years. It cannot be 1 year, right?
Yeah.
It's been around for quite some time, right?
Yeah.
I think since did somebody give reference to a birth, kanina? Anyway.
Reference to?
I forgot. One of my meetings. We were talking about AI, I think with Amdocs.
Oh.
And Mike Toledo said that, what does that mean? Artificial insemination? So, I guess it's not well versed in the internet, yeah. Because we also own dairy farms, so.
Yeah. In your speech,
So
sir,
we have happy cows.
Okay. In your speech, sir, you talked about the role of businesses in upskilling their employees, in training, and earlier in some of the panels, there were also questions around what role does the private sector play in all of this, and whose responsibility is it to police the information, to train people, to be more critical in their thinking? What's your view on that?
Well, everybody. I don't think anybody should be exempt from being a supplier of information, because I think all of you must post on the internet, must be in the internet, no? And as a consumer of information, when you receive information, you have to discern or make a judgment as to whether you ought to believe the thing, whether it's a video or a still picture or just the text, no? Yeah.
So it's everybody's responsibility.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's gonna get worse. When Amdocs told us that we talked about data centers and how the hyperscalers are going to cause Gen AI to really rise exponentially. So there'll be greater demand for data centers. And the consequence of that is there'll be greater demand for power to get the data centers going, and the speed of computing will rise exponentially as well with these GPUs. And they have to be not only powered, but also they have to be fed with air conditioning.
Yep.
So our Vitro in Santa Rosa is a will eventually become a 100 megawatt facility. So it's big. So we should be able to attract the data centers. And you're seeing the IT companies like Amazon investing in power plants to assure their data centers of consistent power and cheap power. It could happen in the Philippines.
Yeah.
I was told, whether this is fake news or not, NVIDIA, now a more or less $5 trillion company, is buying into telco. So I said, I'll raise up my hand. Why don't they buy PLDT for $1 trillion, right?
Well, they can buy pretty much anything now, right? With their
Anything.
$5 trillion market cap.
Yeah, even this country perhaps. Yeah.
Oo nga, exactly.
That 5 trillion is what? 100 times bigger than our
Our GDP, yes, correct.
The poison pill, though, in our country is we're too much debt.
But actually, that's a great point because that's what the makers of AI are saying, that the technology is advancing much faster than we realize. Do
because
you
it-
think we in the Philippines in general are keeping up or innovating fast enough?
Yeah, because if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. Because when my first encounter with the internet was in PLDT. So I said, what is this internet all about? Why are people so enamored with this internet? So they explained. So now I can see. It was Facebook at the time. And so I said, but how do they communicate? Where does Facebook ride on? It rides on the infra of telcos. Do they pay for the use of the infra? No, they don't. So why not? They use our infra. And we spend a lot of money for our CapEx. Each year has grown with 5G, home broadband, etc. And the consumption of internet services has exponentially grown, much, much more, to the extent that I would say the industry, probably 90% of revenues and usage of infra is data-driven. And yet we don't get any benefit. We get side benefit from ancillary services that the internet provides, but there's no payment by the Facebooks of the world, the Instagrams of the world to us.
Yeah.
So, I don't know whether we should form our own alliance of telcos and charge them for the use of the infra. And maybe that's what NVIDIA is doing. So I'll buy my own highways.
Right, because it is our content that they're profiting from.
Yeah, but it's our infrastructure,
Yeah.
right? In the media business,
Yeah.
Jane does talk to ABS and other content providers, but when they use our network, there is a fee.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, a sharing scheme with the content creators, which I think is fair, no? Because without the infra, there is no internet.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, right? Then now the power company is getting to the act because the consumption of power by the data centers will grow. I think I forgot already the magnitude in the States. Yeah, but it's going to be huge.
Primarily because of consumption of AI as well. Is there a need to regulate fake news and disinformation in the Philippines? Earlier we were talking about some other markets that do have laws around this. What do you think?
I don't know whether you can regulate the internet, actually. I'm not sure you can, because if you cannot, then don't, right? I don't know, can you? I mean, because it's already, when you post something, it's already there.
Yep.
Like, unlike MTRCB, before it's shown on theaters or whatever, there's a priori
Yeah.
screening, I guess, by the commissioners or something.
Yeah.
In the internet, you see it when you post. Sure, maybe after posting, you can write to the authorities or whatever they call it in those IT companies to take it down. Diba?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. But we're being told to wrap up, sir. So I'll give you one last question, which is essentially your message to everyone today in terms of what we can do to improve media information literacy in the Philippines and to improve our critical thinking skills when it comes to particularly social media.
Well, I think you just have to exercise due care, critical thinking, and when you consume contents from whichever source, right? Whether it's internet or traditional media. So if it's traditional media, read the Philippine Star, right, Joy?
Pag TV, sir.
TV, syempre, TV5.
Pag English.
Frontline, no.
One news.
Kasi hindi pa kami kumikita eh. Hey, that's a devotion, right?
Exactly.
To this country. Yeah?
So, think ka muna, so stop and think. Before you share, before you engage, please give a warm round of applause
Thank you.
to our
Thank you for
chairman,
listening.
Manny V. Pangilinan, for his candid answers.
Thank you, MVP. May we now call back on stage Ms. Jane Jimenez Basas, Director Maki Katsuno Hayashikawa, Ambassador Saya Nurminen, Director Jerson Abisamis, Ramon Tuazon, Carlo Concepcion, Monis Berto, Lucien Di Tioco, Tam Sinhao, Mona Magnoveluz, Ed Lingao, Tof Rada, Attorney Eves Gonzalez.
A big hand, please, for our panelists and speakers and guests for this afternoon, making the first ever Media and Information Literacy Conference a success. Maraming salamat. We hope you learned a lot from our speakers. Thank you to our chairman, Manny V. Pangilinan, for the powerful closing vision. Our commitment to truth under fire is not just a policy concern, but a core responsibility of corporate citizenship and national leadership. Charles, ano mga favorite mo dun sa mga sinabi ni MVP?
My favorite part was his vision for the future, Gretchen, that there is not a single sector that is responsible for this development, for development of MIL in the Philippines. Rather, MIL is everybody's business.
Hoy, nagustuhan ko sa sinabi niya, the foundation of democracy is truth, and that people informed cannot be defeated.
Exactly. So once again, we'd like to remind everybody to stick around for our raffle at the end as we now end our program with a quick AVP. We have framed the challenge. We have heard the solutions. And now it is time for every one of us to take a stand. Today we push our Philippine MIL community onwards and upwards.
The future of informed civic participation and the future of a digitally safe nation rests on the commitment we make right now. Before we do that, before we come together for our important call this afternoon, a reminder to everyone, if you have your thoughts, yung mga learnings for today, and if you want to post on social media, don't forget our official hashtags. Hashtag MILCON 2025, hashtag THINKaMuna, only 1K in there. Hashtag THINKaMuna Pilipinas, hashtag Global MIL Week, and hashtag UNESCO.
All right, thank you so much, everybody here, and thank you so much to my lovely co-host, Ms. Gretchen Ho, to solidify this commitment and to give you something to take home back to your communities. We invite you to watch our call to action video. It is now time to move from conversation to action.
We still have a long way to go in advancing media and information literacy in the Philippines. Globally, UNESCO has long championed MIL as a vital skill for navigating today's complex information landscape. Locally, it was only integrated into the K-12 curriculum in 2013 and only at the senior high level. More than a decade later, many Filipinos remain unaware of its importance. We need to step up to build a community that grows into a movement. What's needed now is not just awareness, but participation. This isn't merely an academic issue, it affects us all, every day, as we discern what's real and what only seems to be.
Halos 9 naman sa bawat 10 Pinoy ang naniniwalang problema ngayon ang pagkalat ng fake news sa Pilipinas.
That's why MILCON 2025 carries a vital mission to make critical thinking second nature for every Filipino. So empowerment is lived and not just learned. THINKaMuna Pilipinas is our first step in this fight. Already, we've made progress. Partnerships with UNESCO, Alagang Kapatid Foundation, and the De La Salle Philippine System. Alliances with organizations such as the International Association of Business Communicators, the Public Relations Society of the Philippines, Out of the Box, the Philippine Association for Media and Information Literacy, and the Asian Media Information and Communication Center. Collaborations with cultural icons like Itbulaga.
Sa inyo, sa atin, sa ating lahat, magsisimula ang mapayapa at mapanuring bansa. THINKaMuna.
All strengthened by the full support of the MediaQuest ecosystem. In less than a year, THINKaMuna has carried the Philippine flag to the global stage as the country's first finalist at the Asia Design Prize 2025, the Marketech APAC Next Awards for Most Innovative CSR Campaign. Locally, the movement is expanding. Quezon City and Malabon leading the way as the first MIL cities in the country. There's still much to be done, but the progress is real. This is the moment to act, to stand together, because the truth needs all of us to think, to fight, to protect, together. This is the battle cry of THINKaMuna Pilipinas. Dahil sa atin magmumula ang isang mas mapanuring bansa.
Dahil sa atin at sa inyo, magmumula ang mas mapanuring bansa. Palapakan naman po natin ang ating all-around talents for THINKaMuna. Charles Lejano, serving as host, voiceover, videographer, at lahat-lahat na.
Right, maraming salamat, Gretchen. And again, we'd like to thank everybody who helped us along the way. Special shout out to the THINKaMuna team over there. I see you. Maraming salamat. Sexy Red Rico over there with the head of the creatives. Maraming salamat. And yeah, I suppose this is our wrap-up. Oh, no, meron pa pala. May raffle.
Meron pa tayong raffle,
Ayan, yeah, let's do the raffle now.
Let's bring out our digital tambiolo. And you're seeing it on your screen. You have to be here to claim the prize. All right, let's hit that button.
MILCON 2025, the Philippine Media and Information Literacy Conference, is presented by THINKaMuna Pilipinas in partnership with UNESCO.